you have only one thing, it it propels you towards that. But inspiration, it's like it opens up this field of thought, and then you feel like you made that decision to pursue that. This is what
Mhm.
I think of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want this to be anything like special. We're just basically going to be studying, but live studying recorded. So yeah, let's just carry on doing what it is that we were doing, discussing this. And okay, so yeah, for those who are watching, Assalamu alaikum to all. And yeah, so this is basically a discussion on demonology from the Quran. Now, I just want to start off with this warning notice because I myself have been feeling a great deal of resistance in going into this topic, especially with the interview with Jerry Marzinski's coming up. So, yeah, what Jerry has on his website, if you go to his website, there is this warning notice, and I think it's very appropriate right now for those who are going to be listening to this recording or anything that we do on demonology moving forward. So the warning notice is that the voices will try to prevent you from reading and digesting our helpful material. And yeah, the same is the case with me when it comes to looking at any of this stuff. I can tell that there is a resistance, and I'll leave it for people to do make their own journey and understand what it is that Jerry is saying, and we'll probably leave that for next week. But for now, I just wanted to put this across because I think this is needed every time we're looking at anything related to shaitan, anything related to jinn, anything related to the one who wants to remain concealed, disguised, hidden, working in stealth conditions, and wants everyone to believe that he does not exist, nor does his evil plans or his evil works. Um, so having said that, okay, so Brother Joel, you just brought up a couple of verses, so maybe we'll begin with this as well. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. You just quoted a couple of these verses, which I think, yeah, we could do with saying as well. وَقُلْ رَبِّ أَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ هَمَزَاتِ الشَّيَاطِينِ. And say, my Lord, I seek refuge in you from the urgings of the shayateen. And وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ رَبِّ أَنْ
أيهدرون.
يَحْضُرُونَ. And I seek refuge in you, my Lord, lest they become present. Yep. Yeah, go ahead if anyone wants to say anything on that.
Before
Yep.
we get into that, the word present there
Mhm.
is like what other meanings or translations would uh translate that?
Mhm. Yeah, so here, if you look in the English literal, they've got urges or suggestions, but as we're going to see later, there is an actual word for suggestions. So in this case, it would be urges. Um, okay, so Jerry, he brings up two passages from the Bible, which I thought we'd begin with, as well as Surah An-Nas. So
All right.
Psalm 23. Okay, so Jerry says the the evil, I mean the jinn or the demons or the archons, whatever people want to call them.
The
Um,
archons.
yeah, the archons. I find it very interesting that when we were speaking on the chat group, the connections were being made. Archons, archdemons, and then brother Igor said archdemons. So
I feel like archons are like a special rank, perhaps because we have a lot of terminology,
mhm,
which I think we'll get to addressing,
yeah.
such as archons, fallen angels, watchers.
Mhm.
I don't think Nephilim are like devils, but
Mm,
there are a lot of like ranks. I feel like so
yeah.
perhaps archons hold a special rank in comparison to maybe uh normal, quote unquote normal
Mm,
demons.
mm. Well,
Foot soldier demons.
Yeah, foot soldier demons, exactly.
well, you just have to look at the imagery when you put in archons, and I think we'll get the idea we're talking about the same thing. Ultimately, anyway. Right, okay, so that's yeah, archons. So Psalm 23. So it goes, just a second. Yeah, let me just say as well. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are seeking proper guidance as well. And yeah, let me just begin with this as well, which Jerry quotes this. From all of the conversations I have heard, this is the only one they seem to quote. I think other people have mentioned Ayatul Kursi, the throne verse, but he brings this up. So let me recite this as well. Because apparently they all agree, even those who aren't followers of the Quran or aren't followers of Islam or Muslims, they seem to somewhat agree that reciting this has an effect against the demons. So, yeah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. So we will go into that afterwards. So I just wanted to recite that. So we'll have a look at that. But to begin with, Psalm 23. Okay. So the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Okay, let's just go through this bit by bit. Why would this be, in your opinion, guys? You know, why would this have some kind of impact against the demons? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Brother Igor, maybe?
Sorry, it got cut off there for a second. What was the thing?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering. So Jerry quotes Psalm 23, says that this would have an impact against the demons, against the whispers, against the voices. Well, he calls them voices.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You see, it's interesting because I think he says something along the lines of it's really about the understanding, the person understanding the implications of whatever verse, whether from the Quran or from the Bible, is being used in
Yeah,
that situation.
yeah.
So in this case, like if someone is familiar with the Bible
Mhm.
in their own language,
Yeah.
then it makes sense as something that where it says like, I will fear no evil.
Yes,
I
exactly.
walk through the shadow of death.
Yeah.
I will dwell with my Lord, his goodness and mercy, his house, the
Yeah.
paths of righteousness.
Yeah.
Basically, you can tell that there's actually nothing associated, no person or thing associated with God in
Mm.
this psalm.
There's something pure about that, isn't it? Yeah, there's something pure about this.
Well, yeah, because there's so many different traditions that describe the same creator,
Mm.
whatever way you want to look at it. And, you know, fundamentally in, traditional Islam, the idea is that a person's cultural understanding or background
Mm.
that doesn't impact these central principles in the Quran are not invalidated whatsoever. This is why, like, people have said that in the past, when you look at, you know, people from all around the world have some kind of a similar experience with the divine and with supernatural occurrences. But obviously, there seem to be many different ways in which people can be reminded of God, and many different ways that Satan can cause them to forget that. This is the funniest thing, is that, like, basically what he's saying about the patterns trying to take the voices trying to take people away from positivity, from beauty, from joy, from the creator, from God, from anything religious.
Yep.
This is very calculated, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
anything in that verse or in anything in your life that
yeah.
reminds you of the creator
Yeah.
alone,
Yep.
this is the thing that really I mean, he described it like they're like worms on a frying pan,
Yes, yes.
heated up.
Yep, yep. If
So
I can just pause you there, I just want to highlight four words. If I remember, it's four words. So this has been repeating in my mind for quite a while now, for maybe a week. But yeah, so Shaitan hates love, laughter, beauty, children. I think these four are really prominent in my head after listening to Jerry, and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. the love is under attack. Yeah, even laughter. Yeah, it's such serious times right now, isn't it? You know, and even the kind of laughter that we do see, it's probably a bit more on the demonic side, not more of
So
the
Yeah,
yeah,
bastardized laughter.
yeah.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
like a counterfeit or some kind of
Yeah,
negative version of
fake
all of
fake
that.
laughter. Yeah, when
There's
you're
you
laughing at
know,
the time, but you feel terrible afterwards because what you're laughing at. Yeah, so
oh yeah,
laughter.
there's manic,
Yep, yep.
like psychotic or manic laughter, and there's so much focus on fear,
Yes,
and or even love that is like actually not love. It's some kind of a uh
lust.
just like a bastardized version of
Yeah, yeah.
lust
Thank you. Yes, yes.
or kind of immoral urges
Yes.
and things like that.
Because
Yeah.
Yes.
so it's almost like when they create the bad version of love, which is lust, or the bad version of laughter, which is mockery and ridicule and
Mm.
humiliation, then
Hmm.
it's like you're trying to destroy the concept altogether. Oh, love is bad,
Yes.
laughter is bad. No, good love is good. You know, good laughter is good.
Right. He
And
Even for example, music, like good
exactly.
right.
music,
Yeah.
it can be really beautiful to listen to. And I know like a lot of Muslims growing up in traditional Islam completely abolish music, but even Imam Ghazali talked about the beauty of music.
Yes, yes.
Right.
But I feel like the music you have now, the music that young people listen to, it's just completely demonic. You know, there's
Absolutely.
nothing
Yeah.
good in
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even this psalm,
Mm.
if I'm not mistaken, is a song actually. It's a Psalm of David.
Yes.
The way that it's recited is as a song, as a hymn.
Before
So
you forget, just in case we forget, I love how you pointed out. I didn't even see it. That's Islam. Yeah. I love how you pointed that
yeah,
out.
so that word salama or salam or Islam or silm or sulam,
Mm.
there's so many different words from that root, but it's fundamentally that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even we have words in English like solemn when
Right.
you take a solemn oath or something, right?
Yes.
Yep, almost. Yep.
Mm.
So it's like
That's
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, there's a derivative,
Mm.
definitely
Yeah.
different languages for that. But
Yeah.
it's like, when you mentioned children, that was kind of the strangest one to me because like you have this constant theme
Mm.
around religion.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's from religion, but basically it deals with either child sacrifice or some
Mm.
kind of a,
Yes, yes.
Yes.
like making children like bear the burdens or sins
Yeah.
of their predecessors.
Yeah.
In horror movies, they tend
Mm.
to revolve around children being some kind of possessed or demonic or
Mm.
hated object in that.
Yeah.
A lot of horror movies have children's songs in some kind of creepy way that,
Absolutely.
um,
Yep.
like it just goes on and like that people are threatened with poverty. We know that Satan threatens with
Yeah.
poverty,
With poverty.
and Allah says, "Don't kill your children out of poverty."
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
There's so many connections to be made with that. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
why is the Son of God one of the worst things possible? Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a child fundamentally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll try to keep on track. But yeah, what you've pointed out there is very
Yeah,
important because, yeah,
yeah,
if there is the attack on the children, and you just highlighted, yeah, as we know, a lot of people believing in, oh, how do you call it? Yeah, Son of God, and then believing in a sacrifice of that Son of God, and all of these things. It's all
yeah.
cannibalism, child sacrifice, was immoral.
Corrupting, basically. It's like corrupting things that are good in their origin.
Yeah.
That's seems to be the pattern.
So yeah, this
Changing
one.
the creation.
For brother, always this when you asked why do we think this psalm
Mm,
has an effect, as
mm,
Jerry says,
mm.
I think this psalm is like it's talking about a journey to purification.
Yeah.
So look at verse number 4. That verse, I feel like that's like the most confrontational
Right.
verse, because the first three verses, it's like
Mm,
let's imagine a protagonist,
mm,
and he, in the second verse he's lying down, and third verse he's preparing for embarking on this journey.
mm,
But then this fourth verse,
mm,
he's confronting
mm,
maybe his fears, maybe it's like a challenging part of the journey, but he in this storm,
Mm.
the only thing he trusts is God,
Mm.
Allah.
Allah,
And
yeah.
then 5 and 6, I feel like, talk about the process after
Mm.
this confrontation, this confrontational phase.
Nice. It's
So I
quite,
feel like,
it's definitely
yeah,
powerful. Yes, I agree. I love the way you put that, the steps to the peak and the results afterwards. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, let me take this slowly. So even this first one, that is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That sounds like Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in to me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
mm,
You alone do we serve. You alone do we seek help from. Yeah, and that is purity. That is true monotheism. That
that
is,
is attestation
yeah,
to one God, that
yeah,
there is no one else, there's only you.
yeah,
That's the
and
shahada, I feel like,
yeah,
yeah, or like,
yeah.
yeah,
And
testifying.
yeah. And at that point, then obviously any evil effects will yeah,
Mm,
be weakened or
yeah,
removed because they have no power as soon as you said that. Well, it depends on the person's possession and their condition, but yeah, you can see why that just even uttering that alone, just this first one alone, is powerful enough because that is pure monotheism, which is the biggest threat. Because that is the way to success, pure monotheism. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. This sounds like gratitude to me. Maybe Brother Joe.
exactly,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. That sounds like gratitude.
Wow.
This is
I'd
like,
want to go back to like the first verse.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, like the Lord is my shepherd. You gotta think about, what is a shepherd to a sheep or
Mm.
a flock of sheep. And
Guider, yes, guider.
guider,
yeah,
guidance.
yep. And that's where they go to seek protection, Um, if a fox or whatever invades, the shepherd has to go out there with
Mm.
his staff or rod,
Mm.
and it's like it's really beautiful because then this whole thing it starts with a reminder.
Mm.
Let's say you're in fear, right? Let's say you're being tormented and you're
Mm.
terrified,
Mm.
and you start reading this.
Mm.
The very first verse, "The Lord is my shepherd." You're reminding yourself of God
Mm.
and His position and like
Yeah.
authority over you.
Yes.
You're thinking of His protection, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
thinking, as we know, is probably the most important thing that we have, right? What we think determines our reality. Yeah.
yeah, or more so what we feel,
Yeah.
because
Mm.
if I've seen people, say, "Oh, we seek refuge in Allah from Satan the rejected." They would say that,
Mm.
but then they wouldn't feel their feelings wouldn't match with what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just
yeah.
said.
It's lip service. Yeah, it's lip service.
Yeah,
Yep, yep. Okay. Yeah, so this second one definitely looks like gratitude to me, about what we've been given. Green pastures, waters. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me. Yep, exactly. So we obviously become weak. We are weak. I think in the Quran it says that Allah created us weak. So yeah, He restoreth my soul. So we are definitely continuously tested, and we have to continuously rebuild our strength. So where does that come from? That's from Allah, knowing the source. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for His namesake.
wait, before you
Yeah, yeah, go.
continue. Second verse, He maketh me lie down in green pastures. The first verse you think of the supreme authority,
Mm,
the one who would protect you.
mm,
And then the second verse is saying, makes me lie down in green pastures.
mm.
It's making you calm,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
We only lie down or we only fall asleep when we're calm.
Mm,
Our heart rate like slows down, our
yep,
breathing slows down, we're
yep.
relaxed. And then still waters, I think I've seen translations use calm waters.
Mm,
So I think that's probably another element of, restoring tranquility.
yes.
Next verse, restoreth my soul, right?
All right. Yep. Nicely led up. Yeah. So it's, yeah, already. So this, how many verses? Six verses. So already first three verses. Yeah. We can see why this is beautiful and powerful. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Yeah, absolutely. I know Sadi like that bit because this is the bit, yes, where you are faced with the enemy, the evil. Um, as it was it, yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Yep, so completely,
That's a huge one
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
cause I would fear no evil. If
Mm,
you if let's say, there's like a verse that says Allah will protect all like submitters
mm,
who are grateful or something, right? Let's say it's like a verse like that,
mm,
and uh you're facing, a demonic attack, right?
mm,
And you're trying to fulfill that verse and just doubting it, like because we all know that the Quran is his word, and also his will is within it too.
mhm,
It's made obvious to us in it.
mm,
And so if you're doubting that,
mm.
that means you're fearing this attack more than you're having, faith in God or trust in God, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Confidence,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that could be shirk in the way too, if you
yeah,
really
yeah.
think of
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. You're giving power to something else when all the power belongs to Allah, yeah,
it.
ultimately. Uh,
Kufr is likened to ingratitude as well.
right.
Mm,
Thank you. Okay, so for that art with me, and Allah is with us. Allah says in the Quran that He is closer to us than our jugular vein. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And Allah does describe holding on to the rope of Allah, right? In the Quran, holding on to the rope of Allah, which is, as far as I believe, the Quran, holding on to the rope of Allah.
yep,
Again, I'm just reading this with you guys for the first time and just thinking whatever comes to my mind. Thy staff, they comfort me. Ultimately, yes, it's still an expansion of all power belongs to Allah, and Allah is the source and the provider of everything and the protector of everything. Uh,
yep,
Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of my enemies. So, yep. So what does that mean? Thou anoints my head with oil. Um, yeah. Okay, so thou prepares the table before me. Okay, yes. Yeah, so anyway, I don't want to go too much, but if there is anything on anyone's mind
Yes,
on
if
this,
I may say so, Brother
yeah,
Always,
yeah, go.
just quickly. So, verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. This is a attestation of Tawheed.
Yes.
This is just firm grounding in Tawheed.
Yeah.
Verse 2, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, He leadeth me beside the still waters. This is reveling in that Tawheed and being completely firm in
For
that
those
Tawheed.
for those who don't know Tawheed, Tawheed is oneness. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, carry on.
Verse 3, He restoreth my soul, He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake.
Mm,
The verse 3 denotes to me preparing for embarking on the
mm,
path of Tawheed, on the path of truth.
right.
And then verse 4,
Right.
yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Mhm,
I will no fear no evil, for thou art with me,
mhm,
thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So verse 4 is confronting the dark entities or navigating or traversing stormy waters,
mhm,
facing challenges or attacks from the enemy,
mhm,
and having trust in Allah's power over them.
mhm,
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. This is like talking about being confident in Allah's superiority over these entities.
mhm,
And then verse 5, Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. To me, this is talking about when the battle has ensued with
mhm.
evil, this
Uh-huh.
is like in the trenches of the battle with the enemy,
Mhm,
because the quote, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So
mhm,
you're in the thick of it, you're in the midst of this fierce battle between good and evil,
Right,
And
right.
then the next part, thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over.
Mhm.
This is talking about the fact that Allah has given us
Mhm.
good, the power and all the tools to face this evil.
Mhm.
So it's not without purpose that Allah will make us, face these challenges. And
Mhm.
then verse 6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is after good has defeated evil, and now we're on the way to like Jannah, we're on the way to heaven. So
Beautiful,
this is talking about victory of good over evil. This is what
beautiful.
I think.
It's powerful, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing just by reading this, you can see, and this is actually why I did fall in love with a lot of the Bible. I'll be honest, a few years ago, studying it alongside the Quran, I thought, yeah, there's just so much powerful stuff within the Bible for sure. But obviously, then we learn the entirety of the Bible, which is problematic, um, at least to us anyway. I know there's going to be all kinds of listeners, but um, yeah, so yeah, definitely well said, Sadi. Yeah, I love how you describe this. Um, yeah, just before we move on from Psalm 23, if there was anything else that anyone had, because I do want to, I want to move on to Psalm 91, which he also mentions, and move on to Surah Nas, which he mentions, and then hopefully we can get some studying done as well. So yeah, anything anyone else has? And Brother Imran, yeah, I think you've just joined us. Salams, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imran.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Salam, brother.
Salam.
Pakistan. Yeah, I don't want to disturb you guys because I know you guys are probably a couple
No, no,
hours deep.
this is cool. This is flexible. We're just kind of doing a study together. It is being recorded and going on YouTube. But yeah, we're just looking at Psalm 91, right? I mean, Psalm 23 right now, which Jerry quotes. Three passages Jerry has quoted, at least to my memory, which is Psalm 23, Psalm 91, and Surah An-Nas. So we're just having a quick.
Have we gone into the Quran like fully or just the Bible so far?
No, we just started.
Bible support.
You've caught us at the beginning, actually.
Okay, mashallah. Okay, keep continuing, please.
Yeah. Okay, so if no one has anything else left on Psalm 23, we'll move on to Psalm 91. Okay, Psalm 91. Okay, so this one I haven't looked at. I knew about the other one. How many verses is this? Okay, 16 verses. My refuge and my fortress. Again, you can just see immediately it's got a similar feeling to it. He that dwelleth in the secret place, of the Most High, shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. Yeah. Surely,
Near my Father.
Oh my goodness.
okay. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
No, go for it, go for it. If anyone wanted to say anything.
No, I was muted.
Okay.
Scroll up to verse 1.
Yeah. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Let me just quickly read this. Yeah. And I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover,
Wow.
he shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. It's powerful stuff. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. Wow.
Wow. This is like very detailed.
Yeah, it's good. Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth
Wasted
at noonday.
noonday.
1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall be no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Yeah,
It's
powerful.
very, very powerful stuff. And yeah, it's very deep as well.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, in that first verse, it reminds me of the conversation I had with Brother Igor, and I feel like analogies of fortresses, citadels
Mhm.
are quite significant when you study this topic.
Yep.
And once again, you see like here in verse two, the fortress.
Mm.
So there's something about fortresses, citadels
Yeah. Yeah.
against evil. You know,
Yes.
it's quite significant imagery. I
Yeah.
feel like.
100%. 100%. I agree. But basically, from reading that, I saw again, yet again, no problem. As
Yeah.
believers of the Quran, as followers of the Quran, I saw no problem with both of these passages. And I just read this with you guys for the first time. I knew the other one, but I've just read this for the first time, and I don't see any issue with it. And in fact, like how you said, it's truly powerful. It's helpful. I would read it. I would try to remember it. Yep.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that
Go ahead.
it seems like this is one of those interesting passages from the Old Testament that
Mm.
relates to this salvation of the Messiah and the end of days, or
Right.
basically Psalm 91. I remember there were a bunch of psalms that used in a kind of Quran only website that was saying that basically the Old Testament affirms that the Messiah, who we would call Isa ibn Maryam, is actually saved from the torture of the crucifixion.
Right.
And Psalm 91 is one of those psalms that describes that context, the idea that he shall be delivered from the snare. He will call upon me. I will answer him in the time of trouble. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. And he'll be placed in some kind of a special fortress, in a refuge. And basically, is other terms for this is like he says the pavilion of my Lord. But yeah, there is some kind of secret place
Pavilion.
that God has.
You said pavilion.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, it's interesting that this is kind of referring to the Messiah, the Christ,
Okay.
in the Book of Psalms. But yeah.
But just yeah. So even but as it is alone, so you've just given context to and reference to what this is. But even as it is alone, how do you see it as alone? If you didn't know anything else and you just read this as it is, and it's something that you recited, how do you see it in that sense?
Well, refuge is the two surahs in the Quran, the last two chapters, are about seeking refuge in Allah.
There we go. Yeah.
And the other thing is too that the analogy of a fortress is very pertinent, because if you don't have your defenses up, then basically these demonic entities have full reign over whatever happens to you in life, or your body, or your relationships. And the idea also is that the analogy of wings as well being covered upon the believers in God. This is obviously alluding to angels as well, I would imagine. And the terror happens to be something by night as well. So why would fear be associated with night almost every case, something, the darkness falls,
Yeah.
and there's a fear associated, like, you know, when.
And Jerry does say that the voices increase after sunset.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually in Surah
Yeah,
113.
even I think in within Hadith
That's right.
lore,
Yep.
it said that after Maghrib is when the demons are let
Yeah, yeah.
loose. You know,
I bet
So I-
you've had the same experience I've had, as in what we've learned through
yeah,
our
our
traditional thing.
culture. Yes,
Mother would say, come inside, close the
Come
windows,
inside. Yeah,
close the windows, close the windows.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is like of course, our moms would have told us this,
Mm.
and this would have been practiced 300-400 years ago as well.
Yep.
People would have said, come inside to the children after Maghrib.
Yeah.
So there is something to that, definitely. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, even in like Eastern European traditions, there's this idea of leaving a window open.
Mm.
It's called like cold wind, and it's part of superstition, obviously.
Right.
But basically, if you leave a window open, there's a superstition that health risks are associated with this, and basically, like, this is why, like, things are closed. So it's interesting that things like the cold and
Yep.
the darkness and the air as well
Yep.
are all related to something to do with our biology.
Right.
And
Is that true? Because I've
you
heard Barbara say that you should keep the window open. Just make sure that you've covered yourself up, keep your body warm, but you should be breathing fresh air during the night. So
yeah, I think there's a huge amount of superstition in these things, because
Yes.
obviously at their origin there's some basis, right? But we don't understand how that works from the modern interpretation.
Right.
If they don't even acknowledge the soul existing nowadays in the West, so it's like you have nothing to go off of. If there's no, even the term supernatural is kind of misleading, because it suggests that this is outside of nature, but really it's actually still part of nature. It's just part of the physical realm. It's something beyond the physical that we can
Yes.
experience with five senses.
We should remember that human beings can only see 5% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So there's 95% of stuff that is happening as we speak around us. We cannot see them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
for me, that is more that is more the case now. I'm seeing everything now. Yeah. Okay. So,
Pestilence comes by night, right? Pestilence. What is that? That's something to do with, whether it's famine or something like that.
Yes, famine. Yep. Nor for the poverty again. Shaitan promises poverty, right?
Right.
Nor for the
right, and then there's something about 1,000 soldiers and 10,000 at thy right hand. I mean, this is a war going on. If Shaitan has foot soldiers, if he commands people, these commands are in the context of a war. Even there's a, kind of an infamous painting nowadays, but of Lucifer commanding his soldiers.
Yes.
It's, even the angels are shown to have charge over you, because the angels are described exactly like soldiers as well. So it's really a war for your mind. It's like there's some kind of a spiritual battle within you, but also within the greater context of what our
it's
world's
cosmological
fundamental
as
is.
well. It's cosmological as well as spiritual, I feel like.
Right.
It's
right.
What do you think, brothers, is in verse number 5 of this? What do you think is the distinction made? Terror by night and arrow that flieth by day.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment on that. I think verse 5 would mean, unseen dangers and seen dangers. So when it says like arrow that flieth by night by day, most people only fear arrows at nighttime because they can't see it.
Yes.
So I
Mm.
think that means seeing danger.
Yeah. So the physical stuff that you see during the day and the things that you don't see by night, because terror is not something
Mhm.
that you actually see, is it? Well, I mean, you can see the result of terror in someone's face, I guess. Um, yeah, firing arrows at the heavens, Brother Eagle says. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because that's what they're doing, right? All of the evil. Yeah, they're firing. Yeah, that's right. They're trying to get access to the heavens, isn't it? Arrow that flieth by day, nor the terror by night. Okay. Yeah, he shall cover the. All right, but yeah. So just a little bit more on this, nor for the pestilence. Anything else before we move on to Surah Nas? So basically, what we've seen, yeah, we're gonna see. Well, as much as this is powerful stuff, but really and truly, we're saying this because we don't study the Quran. Because when we do study the Quran, we're like, wow, this is actually powerful, you know. So that's what it is. We're
Yeah.
guilty. We're guilty of not studying. We're guilty of not studying what we have in the Quran. So we're gonna do that. But yeah, let's carry on.
Even the demiurge as well. Like I don't know why it's called the demiurge because this is the chief archon, but
Right.
basically in Gnosticism, this is a malevolent deity that pretends to be God. And that verse about in that passage
Mhm.
about treading the lion and the serpent is exactly how the demiurge is depicted as a lion face on a serpent's body,
Mm,
a dragon. So
mm,
I just thought it was interesting, maybe because there could be a connection between urgos, is used the word for urge nowadays in English, and perhaps that word as well.
mm. Yeah, you're right. Demiurge. Look what comes up straight away. That line.
And the funniest thing too is the you know we talk about internal things in the body, right? Because fundamentally we're a reflection of the creation, the heavens and the earth. There's something about the creation that's reflected in our bodies, in our experience as well.
Mm,
And if you look at that picture right there, there's a certain type of creature
mm.
residing in our bodies that looks something like that.
Yeah.
And
You're on
we
about
call them parasites.
yeah,
Yep.
parasites. You're right. You're right. The parasites do look like this.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
very interesting. Let's yeah, it's like a worm, right?
Yeah.
And funny enough, worms were the old name for dragons as well, but it was just spelled
Yeah,
differently.
Wyrm, I think is how it's spelled.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that? W? What?
Wyrm.
Wyrms.
Oh, worms in the original sense. Okay.
Also, it looks like our spine, right?
Right.
Onyctus.
And those are where the nervous central system is
Uh,
by the
yes,
33
yes.
pairs.
And they want control over the central nervous system, don't they?
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
take a
same.
take a look at that, brother. Always,
Yeah.
just go down a little bit. Yeah, the one with the teeth.
This one?
On the right.
Oh, that one.
Doesn't that
Yes,
look
yes,
like something you'd
that's the
find under
parasite.
a microscope? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
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 the parasite. Yes. Yeah, I haven't got too much of a stomach for this, but yeah.
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 So
Uh,
it's like
I
that's the
call these nano
urges.
dragons now. I
mm.
swear. That's
You know
what
Right.
the
they are.
funny,
Right.
you know the funny thing
Wow.
is, I grew up raised watching horror movies as a bit as my earliest memory. Anyone who had to babysit me, I was sat in front of horror movies. So I'm actually desensitized from a lot of this stuff, but for a long time I cleansed myself from it, and now I'm looking at it, it's like I don't want to look at this stuff anymore.
Yeah. Makes you feel uncomfortable, right? When you
Yeah,
see these
because
things,
some of
there's a
these
certain
things do
sense.
pop up. Some of these things do pop up, depending on your condition. I think at nighttime, and we now know where that's from. Like, you might
Mm,
get. I think Jerry says it. He gives the example even for himself that all of a sudden you've got this thought of you want to kill, not that you want to kill someone or kill that person. You're like, huh? That doesn't make sense. I don't want to kill him.
exactly.
I like him. How come that came into my head? Where did that come from? You know?
That's
Yeah,
something
he
called
mentioned that with his dog and while he
Yeah,
was holding a machete.
right.
right.
So yeah, for
It's
me,
actually called
I try to reduce,
intrusive thoughts.
intrusive thoughts. Yeah.
It's a psychological term,
Mm,
intrusive thoughts, and it lists all of the different examples of them.
Yeah, this is
But basically,
from the movie
the
Alien. Now the movie
oh
Alien
yeah,
means something else entirely to me now.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I remember. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it comes out of the stomach, right? The
exactly.
alien. It
Parasites
kind
as
of looks like it's
laying eggs, right? Laying eggs.
laying eggs. Yeah, parasitic.
Yeah,
I want to show you something, brother. Always, once we finish with this psalm,
yeah. Okay,
I'll show you something, inshallah.
okay. Let's get back to the psalm then. Okay, so yeah, none of a great point though. This was a great diversion because, as you said, Demiurge, this parasitical, strange-looking
Yeah, it's in
vampire-like head.
so many movies, so many shows. Even like Harry Potter has a giant like basilisk kind of coming out of an eye in the
Yeah,
film, and it's like
yeah,
there is something going on,
yeah. So
fundamentally. Maybe
verse
you know,
13 is what you're referring to in Psalm 91, verse 13, the lion and the adder. Okay, thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Okay, because he hath set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. Yeah, ultimately, yeah. So this is the success, defeating the evil, having Allah by our side, giving us strength and giving us success and victory. He shall call upon me. I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. Yep, in times of
yeah.
difficulty, Allah will deliver us and honor us by persisting, yeah, against the
It's
evil.
it's a
Yep.
it's amazing too that when we were talking about the second coming, the alleged second coming of Isa in the future,
Mhm.
basically that verse comes to mind when it says, those who followed him will be above the disbelievers, right, on that day. So
Yes,
it's like when it says he had set his love upon me, I will set him on high, like
yes,
specifically mentioning height,
right.
right?
Yep.
There is something above, as there's something about that
Yeah.
that's true,
Definitely, definitely. Well,
raising him
yeah,
above him, right?
we can't get away from the fact that even if we're not physically high, if our spiritual state is high, we recognize that it is a kind of elevation, and just not
Yeah,
a seen elevation. It's definitely, yeah, some
it's
kind of,
definitely from the unseen. That's, I can tell you that much.
yeah, yep. Okay.
Like before you finish with the psalm, like
Yep.
that fortress part,
Mhm.
if you scroll up to where it mentions like a shield and buckler, and then another one, we seek refuge, and there's like a fortress. When you read that, don't you feel like there's like a barrier around you?
Yep. Definitely. I mean, yeah, going back to the whole meditation, breath work,
Mm.
visualization, all of this takes on a whole nother level when you implement this kind of imagery. When you implement
Yeah,
this kind of imagery, it's now taken on a whole nother level because you now know what it is that the enemy doesn't want you to know. And now that you know that, so you're able to, put that barrier, even if it's just a mental barrier, which manifests into, I guess you could say, what's in between physical and mental. I don't know. Yeah, basically, yeah, just playing out in your real life that you've now increased your protection, you've increased your strength.
Hmm.
Yeah, there are veils in our universe as well, like the kind of regions of the earth and the heavens that have these exact barriers to prevent, complete infestation
Mm,
of these two worlds, our world and the world of these, you know, other entities.
mm,
So Fortress is a very, very pertinent example that, you know, you, and perhaps it, in our body, there is something to do with like
the
electromagnetism as well.
toroidal
Yeah,
field.
yes,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, because it's fundamentally has kind of a similar shape to what the heavens are described in the
Mm,
Quran. And
mm,
if these creatures are outside of our, kind of material realm,
mm,
then clearly they would act in these other, like realms of physics, like electricity,
mm,
magnetism, is
mm,
how they're described as well, like a fire. without smoke or without any kind of, like, I think sparks of fire is a very good description of how they are experienced, you know.
Yeah. Well, what comes to mind is what Howard's been showing us, and I think of
Right.
this whole middle imagery. You know, this yeah. Again, I've been thinking about this. You know, who we are as energy beings, beings of energy, electric energy, energetic beings, and yeah, for me, this what he brings up and the whole what do you call that with your hands placed together in the middle? What do you call that? Your hands, you know, which we use today as the thank you emoji. What do we call that?
Namaste. Isn't it
Namaste.
the
Right. Yep. So for me, all of that just kind of it just means more to me now that you know we are centering ourselves, we are remembering who we are, what kind of state we're in, what kind of existence we're in, and then realigning, recentering ourselves, knowing that.
seeking the middle path.
Yes, seeking the middle path. Yes, exactly. That emoji just takes on a whole new meaning for me now. And
You know, when it's funny they do that Hindus they do that namaste sign,
yeah,
and yet in their understanding, which are the chakras, the middle chakra is the heart.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there is something definitely about the heart
yeah, yeah.
and its electromagnetic field
Mm,
that nobody's talking about, especially in the health sector
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the heart. In the heart, and I was thinking about like why does Allah Subhanahu wa Taala constantly talk about the understanding heart?
Mm,
If you just like take a step back and think about something that you really wanted to learn that got you emotional,
mm,
and if you just be like, you know, if I just removed my emotions and I
mm,
just put myself in this understanding mode where
mm,
there's no emotions, there's no, you know, nothing that's disturbing me,
mm,
that's how you actually get to an understanding is when you just humble yourself with no
mm,
emotions and
mm.
just attentive listen.
Yes,
But
yes.
the understanding heart is quite key in the Quran and something that we really haven't really focused on, I think.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
That is where the toroidal field like emits from too, right from
Yeah,
the heart.
exactly.
Mm,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's why, you know, the devils, they arouse desires in
Mm,
mankind because, like you said, it's the emotions that bar you from the understanding. And it seems like when you remove yourself from that, your mind becomes a lot clearer. It's not clouded, and you know,
It's so clouded.
mm.
like
It's
it
not
says that the
clouded
hearts are
in
the intellect,
phenomenon.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
A bit like what I had to do just before we started recording. Settle that mind. Settle that.
Heart coherence, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just yeah. Settle that mind. Okay. Yeah. So as we finish
Yes. So
Psalm
I
9,
wanted to say,
so yeah.
this,
So
yeah,
yeah.
let's finish this. So
Yeah, yeah, no, no, I don't think there is anything, in case I'm wrong, anything more on Psalm 91. So we looked at Psalm 23, very powerful, but it's completely in alignment with what we see in the Quran. In fact, I'm sure we'll find something even more powerful on that in the Quran. And Psalm 91, a bit longer, but still something very beautiful. Ultimately, yeah, you can see why both these passages have a huge effect on the demonic beings. You know,
absolutely.
just these words alone, it doesn't really matter where these words have come from or who said them, but just these words alone, all right? And the person, even more so, meaning that, because obviously meaning takes on a whole different level. As we know, we've got like how many Muslims who are reciting. We know there's power in the recitation, but it's a whole
yeah,
nother meaning. It's a whole nother level once you believe it and you know what you're saying. And this is what I was mentioning the effects against the demonic attacks only really lasts when the person knows what they're saying and they actually follow that, as opposed to as opposed
of
to just
course,
as opposed to just the
it's
recitation. The recitation only has the impact at that moment because obviously the jinn, I'm guessing they speak all languages. I don't know. Do they speak all languages? I don't know.
we have, you know, Surah Al-Fatiha repeated
Mm,
so often in the world. It's probably
yeah.
the most repeated words in the world,
Yes.
and doesn't have any effect in the world when it comes to the actions of people.
Yeah.
I've literally seen
Mm,
with my own eyes numerous times people come out of prayer like
yeah.
minutes after,
Yeah.
and they're just like criminals.
Yes. Yes.
Like they're
100%.
like it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's
Some of
clearly
the
there has to
some
be
of the
something to right.
some of the worst people I've ever met
Yeah.
pray 5 times a day. The worst.
Yes. Yes.
The
Yeah, yeah.
worst
Very
people.
controversial statement you just made there, but absolutely
I
right.
mean,
Deplorable people.
that's
Yeah.
Deplorable.
Yeah.
deplorable.
No,
Yeah.
but again, I'll bring up the example I've said in the past. Yeah, I grew up, I knew drug dealers that would think that it's just okay if they go to Hajj afterwards or Umrah, and yeah, they're all good to go, back again immediately. So yeah, you're right. This doesn't have any impact. These five pillars, yeah, that were sold, yeah, I'm just gonna say them. I don't care. They don't really have any place in what the Quran says about.
No,
But
no. I remember what I was saying once to Brother Igor,
Mm,
that I think that the ritual 5 prayers
mm,
are only significant
mm,
once evil has been cleansed from this world, because there's no point in praying 5 times a day
mm,
and then going back to a system
mm,
which perpetuates evil
mm,
and keeps the cycle running,
mm,
keeps all of these ways through which demons can attack and win, open these channels. There
mm.
is no point of these 5 prayers. Rather, it's disrespect to any notion of what you think of as prayer,
Yeah,
because it's just an exercise.
yeah,
It's a physical exercise. It's
yeah,
just an exercise in futility,
yeah.
you know? So
So
yeah.
so as I mentioned, Psalm 23, that reminded me, one of the pieces reminded me of true monotheism. And this is what we have in Surah Fatiha, as you guys were just speaking about Surah Fatiha. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we serve, you alone we seek help from. This is true monotheism. And yeah, the difference is when it comes to the Quran, that you can tell that this language is not like, see, we're used to this kind of language. Someone we know can write this. It's almost poetic, yeah. We know really good pieces of literature and yeah, poetry that really knocks us back. So in what I'm saying is basically the Quran takes a different type of reader. It takes a person to slow down and really ponder and think, and then they're going to see how powerful these words actually are, as opposed to being in here, you're told what it is. What I found is that a passage in the Bible can be found in the Quran in one verse. Yeah. Now, who can do that? Who can write in one verse, yeah, what you find in the Bible as one passage? That
Only
takes
Allah.
that takes a serious
Very
uh
well said.
yeah, special skill. So that's when you know that okay, yeah, this is something very different here. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. This it's a very different type of language that you have to study and ponder and think over. And today, as we know, Shaitan wants us to become speed readers. Yeah, he wants us to become speed readers, consuming all of those libraries that you see behind in the background of all of these people.
Yes, that's
Right?
what I was.
Yeah.
That's a
But
that's a controversial one. Yep.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Quality over quantity, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, anyway, so that's the last thing on Psalm 91. Yeah, before we move on to Surah Nas, Brother Sadi, you had this to share.
Yeah. So, brother, when I was telling Brother Igor, we were that this war that enrages on is both within the human spiritual as well as cosmological, right?
Mm,
So I used to listen to heavy metal music back in the day,
mhm,
and there's a subgenre of heavy metal music
mm.
that's called black metal,
Yes.
and it specifically is about Satanism. And there is this band,
Mm,
their name is Inquisition,
mhm,
and their music is about cosmology,
mm,
astrobiology,
mm,
Satanism, paganism,
mm,
ancient prehistoric culture. So I
mm.
want you to take a click the main link right there, main.
Where is that?
It's right under this complete discography. Yeah.
Okay.
So just look at the names of their albums. This is
Into the
so
into
Into the Infernal Regions of the Ancient Cult was their first album.
mhm,
And then Invoking the Majestic Throne of Satan
mhm,
and Magnificent Glorification of Lucifer. nefarious, dismal orations.
Mm.
I want you to look at this one and the last three ones.
Mm.
Ominous doctrines of the perpetual mystical macrocosm,
Mm.
obscure verses for the multiverse, and then this is the main one. Bloodshed across the Empyrean altar beyond the celestial zenith. And then the last one, the one they just released, veneration of medieval mysticism and cosmological violence.
Oh, blimey.
All their music
Mm.
is about a cosmic level of war
Mm.
between like archons and good.
Mm.
So it's very very their music is very like detailed, you know, the lyrics.
Mm.
So I just wanted to bring this into notice that there
They
are
they clearly know that there's a war taking place.
yes, and this is what they're
Whichever
saying
side.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And yeah, so let's.
Yeah, just to build upon what Sami was saying there
Mm.
about that there's a war,
Yeah.
right? So who's the war placed upon? So it seems like we're the enemy,
Mm.
Yep.
right? But what does Allah say? Who is our enemy? It doesn't say the Christians are our enemies or
Thank
the
you.
Jews are our Christians. There's only one open
There's only
enemy.
one enemy. Thank you
There's
for.
only one enemy. So that's Shaitan. So here we go. That's proof
Yeah.
that on our side he
Mm.
is the enemy, and on their side we are the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
all coming in full circle here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that surah you have on there
Mm.
is a key to this being a war, because Fatiha is related to conquest and conquering as well. This is
Mm.
how you start to conquer these fears within you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fatiha. I like that. Yep. It's connected to victory, conquest. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Agreed.
Opening what's closed, what's
Yes.
tightened,
Yes.
constricted, and stuff.
Breaking open. Well, breaking the shackles, you could say. Yeah.
Yeah, the keys to the chains.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. So moving on to now Surah An-Nas. Okay. E, one second. Okay, so resuming where we were. Yeah, so we looked at Psalm 23 and Psalm 91, and before we go to Surah An-Nas, which Jerry quotes frequently, Surah An-Nas, we're going to have a quick look at the surah that precedes that, which is Surah Al-Falaq. And before we do that, Brother Joel, you quoted a verse, and you were pointing out how it matters whether you believe. You know, for something to actually work, it does matter whether you actually believe. And you quoted.
It was brother Imran.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. That was Brother Imran. Yes, you're right. Yeah, Brother Imran.
Thinking.
So if you want to say something on that, Brother Imran.
Yeah, I was this is all from Dr. Zaid Ghazawi's work, so all credits are due to Allah first, and then to that Dr. Zaid Ghazawi. But what he is mentioning here is that the criteria of getting healing and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is belief.
Mm.
So unfortunately, if you do not believe in this book, there might be a little bit of healing, a little bit of mercy, but it won't last.
Yeah.
It's just going to be temporary. If you want the real mercy, the real healing, belief is required to attain this.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very powerful, because people are looking for healing. They're looking for some way out.
Mm.
And this is it. This is the book that does it for you. It gives you exactly how the enemy works and what to do
Yeah.
to achieve this mercy and this healing.
Yeah. So you have to be a believer. You have to have you have to be a mu'min. You have to have iman, which, as we know, iman is not just simply believing. It's having confidence. It's being secure and trusting in those five tenets which Allah lists in two verses, which is belief in Allah, having secure belief in Allah, His angels, His messengers, His books, and the last day. So if you don't have that, then obviously this shifa will not be upon you. So yeah, so I thought that was good that you mentioned that, because we're gonna look at these two surahs, which again, one of them Jerry mentions, which is powerful against the demons. So And from what I've understood, how close we've got to understanding about immediate effects and lasting effects, as you were saying right now. So the immediate effects is definitely there. People have recognized that reciting the Quran is something that the demons don't like, but we've also recognized that it's not a lasting effect. And I think we have figured out why, because it's not going to last with the person who doesn't believe, who's just using it as a recitation. If they don't actually know what is being said and they don't follow it, then it's not going to have a lasting effect. It's the believing, it's the following that has effects upon your DNA ultimately, upon your how did you describe it, Brother Ego? Upon your
Sorry, I couldn't hear the last part. Was it?
Yeah, the when you were describing how we change our DNA through belief, we change our, through the Quranic belief, we're ultimately rectifying the harms that have been maybe placed upon us genetically, ancestry.
Right.
Yep.
You mean
There's this
epigenetics?
epigenetics. Yeah, it's like there's kind of like a notion. There's kind of like a notion that basically, we have some kind of a damage done to us when it comes to this life.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yep, I think you might have a connection issue.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
You're back now, yeah. You're saying
Okay, thank God.
we have
So basically,
Yep.
You're like every son of Adam is making a copy from the original, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting more and more exposed to harm and damage genetically.
Yeah.
That's not saying that that's a bad thing in and of itself, but it's part of the test.
Yes.
And there are ways that we can reverse that.
Yeah.
The most prominent example in the Quran is Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he left his people fundamentally, physically. Allah granted him, when he left that shirk, 2 messengers, okay, 2 prophets, 2 nabis. So he reversed that damage, because in Surah Al-Asr it says that mankind is in loss except the ones who trust in Allah, do good works or works of righteousness, and basically they warn each other with truth and patience.
Yeah.
So it's like there is a way out.
You're talking about Surah Al-Asr, yeah?
That's right. Yep.
Yep.
So it's not a coincidence in the Arabic language, which this book is revealed in, that embedded within the roots of the language are some kinds of like hints that there are mutations of what's right. Then that's why evil is always associated with corruption of the original blueprint of everything. So Shaitan commands to change the creation, to modify it. And Allah is telling you what the modification implies. So if you're a person of fikr, thoughts, thinking, that can easily be changed to kufr. Sometimes people in the West, they're very academic, very scholastic. They think for their job, and they fall into this trap. Then you have the same thing with shakr as well. Some people, like in the eastern parts of the world, are very grateful for even what little they have.
Yes.
Yet they're grateful to the wrong gods.
Interesting. Yes.
Shakr and shirk.
Sure. Yep. So
these are just some examples, right? Like
one of those can easily lead to the wrong thing. Yep.
And when you talk about sound has a profound impact on everything. Sound is accredited in the Quran as crumbling mountains, leveling mountains, in the form of the Quran. So basically, sound is a very almost all-pervasive force, that everything was brought into being via sound. And all of the other forces, whether it's fire or light or clay or metal or anything like that, any of the other types of phenomena, they're subject to sound. The cymatic patterns, the frequencies that we're swimming in at all times. And so it's basically a matter of, okay, what is that doing on a cellular level? What is that doing on a genetic level. If you look at Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's provided so much evidence to suggest that your thoughts, your emotions, what you believe, hold to be true, that has an effect on you. So imagine if Allah created you, literally, and you're holding something that goes in defiance against that within the very depths of your soul. So it's like that cannot coexist. It's rejected. Just like if you put a foreign body into someone's human body or an organ or a foreign tissue, it's rejected. So it's the same idea. Like that's why the deen is, there's no compulsion, but there's signs when you're not following the deen. It's like, like shaitan. He's not following the deen. So he has to do everything opposite to try to accommodate his kind of twisted view of the world. Right.
I've got it somewhere in the book. I can't remember offhand. Maybe another time. But what you're talking about the healing from the Quran, the opposite is also true. When you're not, there's verses in the Quran where Allah clearly states that the person who deviates from His verses, and they're doomed. Ultimately, Allah describes
that same
ways.
verse.
But the person who deviates from Allah's verses has got trouble upon him. He's Allah. I think Allah assigns a qareen to him. That he's. I can't remember. We're going to go through all of this, but I do
that
know
verse you got there addresses that, increases the wrongdoers in loss. This is part of the mercy of God.
Right.
If you want to worship something that either you created or that has no relevance or there's no basis to it, fine. Allah will give you a red carpet to worship that. That's part of His mercy. He will also guide people that make mistakes and they feel like they're doing something wrong. He will allow you to come back, to turn away, to come back, because His mercy is so endless that He gives you degrees of punishment and reward based upon, how far are you willing to go. Sometimes you can go so far that you can't come back. Like with a lot of these cases, but basically, with jinns and demons, like this is part of how susceptible are humans to forgetting the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? It's really related to this kind of forgetting. So
these are likened to a dog. Yes, there it is. I've got it. I found it. Yep, here it is. So I think just very quickly on this. So look.
I like how it says likened to a dog.
Yes.
And yet there's people who wear dog tags.
Yep, they are. Absolutely. I feel sorry for these people who have PTSD afterwards because they've been sold a lie that they're fighting a war to, defeat the enemy when actually they're working for shaitan, and now they're left with all kinds of trauma that probably leads them to suicide afterwards.
I wonder if they still believe in that phrase, we're fighting for freedom.
No,
whose freedom?
But
where is the freedom?
But the dog,
freedom from what?
Yeah. I'm convinced. I've studied enough now, and I've listened to Muhammad Sheikh. I'm convinced that there is no one that can convince me that I should join them in war, because I don't believe anyone is. Anyway, for another topic, another day.
But that being said, who is our enemy, right? That's, I think, it's going to bring us back to the subject: is who is the real enemy? That's after us, and how do we defeat them? And hopefully, inshallah, that this session will bring that out.
So just very quickly, shaitan follows the one whom separates himself from the verses of Allah, from the ayat of Allah, and misguides him towards the darkness, much like the light of day is described to be withdrawn from night. And Allah says within that same passage, the next verse, these people are likened to a dog. Tell them or not tell them, it is the same for those who deny the verses of Allah. Again, it's all about the ayat, the verses that are in the book, the ayat which are in creation as well. An evil example, where is it? And we have certainly created hell for many of the jinn and mankind. They have hearts or minds, whatever you want to define qulub as, with which they do not understand. They have eyes with which they do not see, and they have ears with which they do not hear. Those are like cattle, rather they are more astray. It is they who are the al-ghafilun, the unaware. And yeah, the herd mentality seems to be perfectly defining the opposite of having taqwa, awareness. Anyway, yeah. So the point is, yeah, as we were saying, the shifa is in the Quran, and the opposite is also by you moving away from the Quran. So on that,
So
let's
it's a double benefit. It's healing and a mercy.
yes, a healing and
So
yep,
so it's like you heal yourself from evil, and
yep,
then inshallah on the day of judgment you will see the real mercy.
yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so right, so with Qul A'udhu Birabbin Nas, before we look at that again, which Jerry, this is the reason why we're doing everything today, because in preparation for Jerry, and well, Jerry's like how can I put it? He's he's just helping us start off this whole topic that we do need to study demonology, and even afterwards we're gonna go more into it, inshallah. But yeah, so he's quoting Surah Nas, and before that comes Surah Al-Falaq. The reason why I want to have a look at that quickly is because there's all kinds of du'as today that people talk about, which I don't know where they come from, these du'as. But they seem to forget that in these last two surahs, look at how many evils are mentioned. One shar here, shar, yeah, shar, evil.
Mhm.
So evil of what Allah created. So that helps to remind ourselves that Allah's actually created this evil, yeah. As far as I can read it here, until someone tells me otherwise. So
Al-Fatiha.
yeah. So we're seeking refuge from the evil of what Allah created, because this is a test ultimately. I mean, shaitan is evil, and who created shaitan? Yeah,
Exactly.
right. Okay. So sure, we can't know and understand everything, but we can know and understand what we have in the Quran. And the next sure is the darkness as it gathers, and the next sure here is those who practice
So
Nafathat fil uqad. So that's the blowing of the knots, if I remember correctly. We're not going to go
mhm,
into detail exactly what it should be here. I'm just making the point that these two surahs have these number of evils, yeah, mentioned in them. And not
mhm,
just that, Allah's actually telling us, say, qul, yeah, say this
mhm,
whole thing, say this whole thing. This is your dua, or this is your invocation, seeking refuge. As that Psalm 23 said, was it you're seeking refuge? Yeah, you're fortifying yourself. You're creating a fortress. Yeah,
mhm,
as people will know, fortress of the Muslim. They'll know that dua book. So here's the other shur. Um, the envier, the one who does hasad. So the one who envies, yeah, hasidin, hasad. So that's four evils. Yeah, evil. So we're seeking protection from Allah from the evil He's created, because that's what is Allah. Either you're going to seek guidance from Allah and protection, and we're going to be protected from that evil which He has created, or if we do the opposite, then He's going to leave us to fall into these traps, to fall into the effects, the evil of the darkness as it gathers, the evil of those who blow knots. We do need to look into these, and the envy. But then comes the next surah, which is Qul A'udhu Birabbin Nas. Yeah. So another one, Qul. Allah is telling us, say, I seek refuge in the Rabb of An-Nas, the Rabb of mankind. And I know a lot of people try to do this thing where they change mankind into people kind and humankind and trying to make it gender friendly. Um, I'm happy with mankind because a woman is still woman. I don't know what you guys think. I don't think
Let's
it's a
not
big deal.
let's not open that kind of worms, you
Yeah.
know.
Because anyway, I did not. I just find it strange. Yeah. Anyway, um, so yeah, Allah is the Rabb of mankind. Yeah, ultimately, which includes women. Yeah, womankind. Yeah, woman, man. Yeah. Anyway, whatever the original term is supposed to be. So Allah is the Rabb of mankind, the Malik of mankind, the King of mankind. Um, Ilahin Nas, the Ilah, the God of mankind. So what are we seeking? So this is so I mentioned four shurs in the previous surah, and then there's one shur here. So this is the shur that Jerry is aware of, and he quotes. So min sharril waswasil khannas, yeah. And we can already see waswas, yeah. Waswas,
mhm.
and whisper, waswas. So we're seeking protection. We're seeking refuge in Allah from the evil of the withdrawing. So al-khannas, the withdrawing whisperer. Where is it? The one who withdraws. Al-khannas. So he whispers and he steps away. He whispers and he steps away. A bit like this is what comes to my mind when she comes, Wanda, to Tony Stark, and she does a little whatever that frequency magic, yeah, whisper, and now that has filtered in, and he's now following that, and then she moves away. Yeah. So
Yeah, she withdraws. So it's
she,
like they whisper.
Yep.
They whisper into your heart, and then
Mm,
they move away so that you commit that act yourself. So that on the day of judgment, they can't be like, "Hey, we didn't force him. He acted on his own. We just whispered."
into the breast. So it's into our chest. That's interesting. Into what does it say here? Yeah, chest, innermost. Yeah, sudur. I think we use that word as well. Maybe Sadiq can tell me what's Hindi or Bengali. I bet he's got a similar word. I think we've got it, sudur, or even Imran. Maybe you know.
Let me look it up.
I'm
I
sure.
actually don't know the word
Huh?
in Urdu.
No, I mean
Chati,
our chest,
chati means chest.
our
Yeah,
torso.
yeah, yeah.
I think our torso, yeah, or chest, sadr.
Chati means chest in
Yes,
Hindi.
that's right. Yeah, chati. Yes, that's right. Same here in Gujarati. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So the one who does waswas in our chest, yeah, in our innermost people's, yeah, innermost. So that is ultimately what we're seeking protection from, and we're focusing on this because, yeah, this is what Jerry is bringing to light. What these whispers are. They're not hallucinations, and they're not even your own voice. It really is a big thing once you recognize that it's not my own voice because they
Yeah,
imitate,
the thing too.
because they imitate our voice. That's why we think it's our voice. They imitate our voice. Yeah, that's why we think
That
it's our own voice. Yeah.
100%. You know what's interesting about I think this is Surah An-Nas, but then Surah Al-Falaq, the one you just put on.
Yeah.
Basically, I've heard Dr. Ghazawi. He's a researcher in the Quran. And basically, he was saying how the blowing into the knots relates to, basically, by his evaluation, is like the kind of activating synapses in the brain.
Right.
Because synapses to him, like on the kind of visualization of the brain, look like knots.
Yes.
So it's like, imagine if you're some kind of entity that's electromagnetic and you have access to all the memories because they all are activated through this organ called the brain. So you can just flick things on, play around, make people forget things, make people remember things incorrectly. There's so many, just like that Scarlet Witch that you showed picture of, right? So Scarlet Witch that's red, and red is supposed to be the lowest vibration of visible light. So that's something that he was saying as well, that I think Jerry Marzinski was saying that these entities are actually low vibrational beings. And so it would make sense that it would be associated with the color red, like how people in rituals
Even in like paintings, the devil, it's
red.
it's with horns. The paintings, like he's depicted as red.
Same thing with
I always thought it had a link to the natural world of how plants use light spectrum, right? And in plants
right.
use red, blue, and green, right? And so here we see the red. I mean, supposedly plants use blue more, but red has a unique feature because it's it's bright.
Red is
And
passion, right? Red is
yeah,
Or
and it's bright. It attracts you. It's more attracting than blue, right? Because it's bright.
It's instinctive
And not only that, obviously,
urges.
it's the color of our blood, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
or
So it's
perhaps
like
it could be that the nature of the thoughts that they're implanting are of a low vibration.
Hmm.
And,
mm,
and that
yeah.
is depicted as red, you know?
Right. Right. Infrared is also outside of visible light. You wouldn't be able to see things that are in that spectrum.
Mhm.
It's funny because green light, red light is we see every day as well that have certain psychological connotations in our society. Jannah is described as green, and
Mm.
then
Red means
everybody can
stop,
see
right? Everyone
stop.
stop what you're doing. Listen to what I have to say.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Red is passion. I
yeah,
think it's fiery. It's passion. Yeah, it's
yeah.
almost like
Romance,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
romance. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
wine
Valentine's, yeah.
as well.
Mm. Mm.
And it's like when you go on a ship, like a boat, the left side is called the port side, and it's aligned with the red light that I have marking on the water. And the right side, the companions of the right, is always green. It's called starboard.
Mm.
So it's aligned with the green lights, and that's how they manage traffic on the water.
Mm.
So even in every facet of our society, we have this dichotomy, red and green. It's kind of like the two hereafter places, right? You have Jannah and you have Jahannam,
Yeah.
and they just so happen to be right. Like left-hand path is used for Satanism as well.
Yes.
Mm.
So
Yep.
it's just interesting. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
know, like
It
there's
makes
so much,
everything. It
and green
makes
is obviously in the middle
yes,
of
yes.
the visible light spectrum.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
when you say the dichotomy, or basically, yeah, the two choices, yeah, but it makes everything clear in a world where they're making everything unclear. They're blurring the lines. Um,
Blurring.
they're teaching there is no one truth. There is, there's what do they call it? Where this is your perspective, or this
Perennialism.
perennialism. Yeah, this is your interpretation. There is no one. This is what happens when someone finds out that I've written a book, and I just might even mention some tiny bit that might trigger them. It's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Everyone's got their own thinking. What they think is in the Quran. So this is the belief that people have, that there is no one truth in the Quran. That everyone can read it, and that they can find all kinds of different realities within the Quran. I do believe that Quran is far more than we can define it to be, but there is clearly, I'd say the bulk of it is clearly something that we can all agree upon, which is clear. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the point is that there is the two choices. Basically, it's like, yeah, heaven, hell. What is it? Hellfire or Gardens of Paradise. Yeah, the green and the red. Um, and
Hmm.
yeah, this whisper, yeah, it's probably leading us to the red.
Yeah, and
They're also like, what do you call them, on the color spectrum?
Mm.
And complementary colors, right? They oppose each other, like yellow and purple, or blue and orange.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So Kul A'udhu bil Falak. The evils are in there, and this one evil. So yeah, we're seeking
and also
refuge.
just before, I just also wanted just to point out that Qul A'udhu Birabbil Falaq, there is light also present in that verse, right? He's the daybreak.
Mm.
And what? So, like, just like how we said before, what is Allah not saying? He is not saying that He is the Lord of the sunset,
Mm.
but He is specific. He is the Lord of the sunrise, of that daybreak,
Uh,
right? So there's something there about light and it eliminating darkness,
mm.
right? And I think there was
Yeah, I know. We'll have to. We'll
Dr.
have
Zaid
to.
Ghazawi said that that Allah says in the Quran that He is the light of the heavens and the earth,
Yeah.
and that He blew into Adam
Mm.
his soul.
Mm.
So is our soul made of light?
Mm. Well, it would make sense because what are we doing here? If you look at this, it's all about darkness, everything here.
Hmm.
So obviously, yeah, you're
Exactly.
right. What Allah is saying is that He's the Lord of. Ultimately, I think He's describing a different way of getting us to see that the light comes from Allah, because He's saying, "What
Mhm.
is this? This is the moment of the day, immediately where that splitting takes place, the darkness
Exactly.
and the light." Yeah, this is ultimate. Yeah, this is what.
And it's the light rising, right? It's the light rising. So as it rises higher and higher,
If
things
I
get more clear.
if I remember, this is actually the cleaver of daybreak. So that's the
Mhm.
specific Arabic. It's cleaving. The splitting between day and night, it's cleaved, if that makes sense. You're like a bit like you use one of those cleavers, the knives, where you actually make a cut, you make a split.
Mm. So
That's
it's
what,
like
yeah.
Ibrahim alayhi salam, the first stroke of that hammer he used on that idol
Mm,
is that first strike,
right,
in a
cleaver.
sense.
So this is actually cleaver, cleaver.
Mhm.
It's the knots too. It's like like you have a knot and then you can't undo it, so you just like cut the knot with a knife.
Mm,
It
Right, right.
doesn't affect you. So there's a story with mythology, the Gordian knot, and yeah, it's kind of off topic, but
yeah.
basically, yeah, the sunrise is relevant here because it's saying that the darkness falling is what manifests increase in evil. So the
Right,
sunrise
right.
is the end of that. It's like pelting, like the stars pelting the devils with light, right?
Mm, yeah.
And I think, just to get a clear view, you can just quickly go on YouTube and just search up sunrise and just look at it, or even just go to nature and look at it and see what Allah means by daybreak, and then you'll see it. You'll see, like, yeah, I understand now. As more light is introduced into the atmosphere, things get more and more clear,
Well, I
and
don't think
darkness.
it's a surprise. Yeah. I mean, I just want to add to what you're saying. I remember I lived somewhere where a student, she jumped off the 13th floor, by the way, 13th floor to her death.
Mhm.
Very traumatic time, winter time, medical student.
Right.
And I remember the what do you call it? The caretaker was, we were all in shock. I was speaking with the caretaker, and he was saying if she only just waited a few more hours for the sun to rise, yeah,
Right.
because there is something about that. Obviously, this is hope, yeah, this is the light, the sunrise.
And
Uh,
I think somewhere in Europe, I think it might be Sweden or somewhere where they don't get a lot of light.
right.
And during that time where they don't get light, there's a lot of suicides. The suicide rate is actually higher
Well,
during the winter
suicide full
time, right?
stop in the world right now, from what I know, it's massively.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's the highest cause of death for young people.
Right,
Hmm. Yeah,
right now.
because
Right.
spirituality is
Especially
void
men.
in anywhere.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right, Sadi. I think you're right. Yeah, so definitely, yeah, there is something special about this, and obviously it makes sense, when Allah is saying protection from all of what is dark and evil, we're seeking from the Lord of who gives us that. Yeah, the Lord who gives us this. Yeah. So,
And supposedly, I mean, I don't know if this is true. I tried finding this. I can't figure out where to find it, but supposedly that first light,
mm,
like let's just say we live by somewhere where we can see the horizon clearly. That first light, as it enters,
mm,
there's because it comes with because the sun brings heat,
mm,
so it brings in this fresh air,
mm,
and that fresh air is supposedly like very beneficial for your health. I know that Hindus practice this.
yeah.
You'll always see them during the sunrise, and they're always there putting their hands up towards the sun
Yes.
during the sunrise. So it's like they have something in their religion too, that
Yeah. Well,
that there's something special about daybreak.
I mean, when do you have the energy to get up? When you see that the sun has risen, or when it's still in the
Exactly.
dark hours? Which one is easier? It's easier to get up when you see that the sun is rising. You're like, yeah, you know what, this looks good. I want to get up now. Um, as opposed to, yeah, when you're dragged out at the early hours in the darkness, that's the difficult one. So there's clearly energy and hope and positivity and everything from the sunrise.
Yeah, even with the
Yeah, I was gonna
birds, right?
mention
When do the birds
seasonal
wake up?
depression.
Sorry?
I was just gonna mention seasonal depression.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yep.
The
Brother
lack of
Imran
sunlight.
mentioned Sweden earlier. They
Mm,
get
Hmm.
like less sun during the winter.
mm,
Well,
mm.
even us too. But
Yeah.
as people get more depressed during those times, there's way less sun. You don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those thoughts, those whispers are very, very draining of their energy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Even a biological standpoint, like all the vitamin D that you get from the sun, like in the summer,
Mm.
it's actually the precursor to so many hormones in the body,
Mm.
like serotonin, testosterone,
Yes.
estrogen, progesterone.
Mm.
They're all made from like cholesterol, like vitamin D. Basically, it's like what Brother Imran was saying about the heat being a calmness for us is so key, because the moonlight is actually cold.
Mm.
And you can argue if you have a heliocentric model of the world and you think that's the sun reflected from the moon, but Allah says that it's a light that's of its own.
Yep.
And that basically it has opposite properties. It's cold.
Clear
Right?
opposition to the Quran. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like when you go out at night, that's where all the fungi and the molds and the decaying stuff happens. Like bacteria and scavenging animals. They come out at night. All that stuff starts to kind of facilitate from the moonlight, from what happens at darkness, right?
Right.
It's why the moon was associated with insanity.
Lunatic.
Yeah, like lunacy is named after the moon.
Yeah, lunatic.
And then mental illness, because mens is related to the moon, and menses and menstruation.
Right.
So we have all of these things associated with that. And the sun, on the other hand, has the opposite things, life-giving properties. Like even it has electrical interactions passing through the sky. When you look at the sunrise, the color changes based on the position of the sun, because there are different gases, noble gases, being like changing in color from the sun's interaction. So it's like that is literally giving life from Allah's mercy. And it's no surprise that people worship this as a god. Like they prostrated to this Shams.
What do they call it? They call it
what's really
Egyptian mythology. They call them Ra, right?
Ra.
And where do you think they got
Which
that
means
from?
king.
But where do you think they got it from? I mean, of course they got it from the Quran. So this is just my assumption that it's Ar-Rahman.
Yeah,
that they try to.
Or Rab.
Even Ram in Hinduism is a deity.
Yeah.
So
and Ray means king.
This is just Santos Bonacci's here. He's saying, oh, this is where they got Sun Ray. It's the Ra, Ibrahim,
Sun Ray.
Sarah. So they get it twisted.
Yeah.
And but Santos Bonacci had one thing that I liked. He goes that when the sun comes up, it acts like a king, because now all of cosmology stops. So you can't connect the stars. You can't. The moon is not as bright, and it takes over.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
a
powerful thing. Yeah.
It's a very.
You're gonna find this interesting, brothers. But in Christianity, there's two different types of worship and prayers. One is the evening prayer, and one is the morning or like sunrise prayer. I think. Do you know what the evening prayer is called?
No.
It's called Vespers.
Yes. Okay.
Wow.
So on that, let me have a look at that. You've sent me a link. Okay. So wait, just hold that. So Surah An-Nas, the sneaky, the withdrawing whisperer, the one who withdraws whispering into the chests, the innermost parts of people from among the jinn and from among mankind. So what does that mean? Just hold that thought on the Vespers. I'm coming straight to that. So this withdrawing whisperer, that is Shaitan, right? And he uses his minions amongst the jinn and mankind. So these whispers are coming from him ultimately. He's got his claws in his people. He's got his web of works taking place. He's got his own army, his own his own
community.
Yeah.
His own community.
Right, exactly, yeah. So for me, that's what this means, from among the jinn and mankind, because obviously there's good mankind and there's good jinn.
Yeah.
His own.
Right.
These are the people who are whispering into our innermost chests and withdrawing. And so I see that in several ways, obviously, whether it's technological frequencies, whether it's just them as energetic beings, whether it's the CNN news or Sky News, whatever it is, they're, they've got their people whispering things into us through
That's right. Yeah.
through movies, through songs, through all kinds.
Soothsaying.
Everything. Yeah, soothsaying. Yeah. And so you just mentioned, hold on. And before we get to that whispers, so yeah, OCD, I should bring that up in case we forget. So you mentioned also off recording that OCD is the most prevalent 12th month, 12th? No. Well, it's one
No,
of
I
the
think
Fourth.
let me
fourth
I
month.
can try to find it, but it's fourth most, I think, psychiatric
All right.
disorder, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I just kind of glanced, but basically, it's very strange because if you've seen people with OCD, like I don't think they understand the basis is that these are not their thoughts,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's just mimicking their thoughts. If you look also, Brother Owais, on Wikipedia, it says like intrusive thoughts. This is largely the actual problem when it comes to OCD, because obsession and possession in Arabic is the same word.
Maybe the jinn aren't happy with what you're saying.
Jinnah. It's actually called jinnah, obsession or possession.
Yeah.
So basically, you can. Am I cutting off?
Yeah, you were. I don't think the demons wanted what you were saying to come out clearly.
Oh, you know why? You know why? Because we didn't say what Allah tells us to say.
Yeah.
We're supposed to say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim."
Okay.
That's,
Yeah.
I think we should have said.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. You are making
Okay, so
you are making the connection between was it yeah, go ahead. The OCD and
obsession and possession.
Obsession and possession.
So yeah. So in Arabic today, they have a word for OCD, and it's called waswas qahri. So it's actually called waswas in Arabic. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. So it's actually called waswas, OCD in Arabic. But it's called waswas qahri, which means like something like upsetting whispers, basically.
Right.
So, or suggestions, incitements, suggestions. So right there, it tells you like how the individual has intrusive thoughts. That's what the obsession is. If you click on that, it tells you what those obsessions are boiled down to. And it's exactly what the Quran outlines and what Dr. Zayd Ghazawi also mentioned in one of his videos.
Yeah.
Basically,
am I there?
Yeah. If you scroll down, basically you have 3 different versions of that. And this is what Shaitan incites people to.
Aggression, sexual, and religious. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so as Dr. Zayd Ghazawi, full credit.
And this is what we're witnessing. This is the entire, I'd say, majority of the Muslim Ummah is experiencing religious OCD. Yeah.
You can just go on Reddit. People in the Muslim community are overrepresented in OCD.
Yes.
Prevalence.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the West, it has even worse impact because there is no outlet other than the Islamic outlet or religious outlet to explain this, right? Because they will tell you it's the chemical imbalance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So let me just, if you go to verse 2,
this
169.
is big. This is still sitting in with me. What you just pointed out, aggression.
But this is basically
religious.
This is basically the verse it's derived from, because Satan commands mankind to do 3 things: evil, as-su', immorality, al-fahsha,
Yeah.
and basically what we would call blasphemy or kufr, which is to say about God, say about God what you don't acknowledge.
Was the first, Brother Igor, sorry, wasn't the first one to incite the devil incites for you to be harmful, either towards yourself or to others?
So if you look up harm in the dictionary, one of the definitions of harm is evil or wickedness, basically potential or actual ill effect. So I could use these terms interchangeably. It's just kind of that English has so many synonyms. But I just, like harm would be basically within natural law. If you do no harm is like the basis rule in almost every system, right?
Look, now that you've got me on the OCD bit, just looking at this PTSD. So from what I understand, possession comes through trauma. Either comes from the person sinning themselves, or it comes from trauma being inflicted upon them. This is how I understand it. This is ultimately how it gets everyone. Either you have to commit the sin and they have to you, or some kind of trauma has been inflicted upon you. So even if a person's gone to war or done something in God's name, which they think is good, ultimately, whichever way you look at it, they've sinned or they've committed something terribly against their fitra, and therefore now in PTSD. And this is how, from what I understand, the jinn have access to your memories, and they seem to reside there, or they use that against you every single time, keeping you weak, keeping you negative because of these memories.
That's the thing. So what it boils down to, you're absolutely right, is these three things, harm, depravity, and blasphemy. Basically around those things. That's why like there's some kind of a obsession, kind of a stereotype of OCD where there's lots of hand washing and stuff, because the second one, impurity or perversion, this applies to the self. So if out of the three, they're directed towards different subjects. So the harm, that will be towards others. This is just logical. The immoral part, that's against oneself, fahsha. And then the kufr part, that's against God. Because it says to speak upon God what you do not know. That's literally kufr, the definition of blasphemy. And it's repeated numerous times.
So this is the religious OCD, what you're speaking about.
Religious, anti-religious, right? Religious interference, and there comes in many different forms.
People going on corners saying continuously, Jesus loves you, Jesus loves you. This is religious.
These are, so the possible harm against others, unwanted perverted thoughts, and religious interference are the major obsessions of OCD. Or in Arabic it would be called jinnas. OCD itself in Arabic is called al-waswas kahri, colloquially. Everybody's understand. By the way, disclaimer should be made. There's no medical advice here. Please don't take anything from here. It's just
doctors.
No. This
or psychiatrists.
This is purely a scriptural study here.
Yeah, there's nothing to be said there.
We can explore with reality. That's what.
Yeah, brother Igor, I like how you mentioned those, because the depravity, the sexual intrusive thoughts are harm to one's own self.
Right.
The religious OCD is harm directed towards Allah, or insult directed towards Allah.
Yes. Yeah.
And the aggressive thoughts are harm towards other people. So you're harming yourself, you're harming other people, and you're insulting the Creator. So it's like unholy trinity of insult, basically, right?
Exactly.
And all three of these conditions that you just mentioned, if you go to any hospital anywhere around the world, where do all three of these conditions meet? They're always in the mental health unit. Always, 100%. There's no other place. And not only that, it is the most violent place in the hospital. So there's the harm.
Yeah, this is something, inshallah, we'll talk with Dr. Jerry Merzinski, because one of them, something been kind of working on are the footsteps of shaitan. So he kind of, in the same way the government, gets people to do things in a certain way over time. They call it like totalitarian tiptoe, I think, by David Icke and others. But this is something that shaitan seems to do with every person. And it's attributed to shaitan, which is so interesting because, well, obviously he has a tribe, he has some progeny, and you'd imagine that they would be doing the work. But he gets the credit because some way or another, this hive mind of creatures are all connected to each other. So it's like Allah and his angels. It's an analogous thing where Allah, he tells the angels do this and they just do it. Right? But Allah is the one that gets the credit. He's the one that has the glory. Right. So it's same thing, same kind of setup. But basically, what they're doing is, it's like, I'm just trying to get my train of thought, but
okay, well, yeah. I mean, see if you can, but I wanted to bring you back to the wisps and
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But one more thing, in Surah Nas, Brother Awais, the verse about blowing of the knots. So, Brother Igor was mentioning that Quranic researchers' thoughts that it pertains to disturbances within the synapses. But is there any element of sihr or amulets, talisman? What do you guys think? Like the stuff that we knew previously?
Yes, you're right. You're right to bring that up. The way I see this, I'm glad you brought this up. The way I see this is, so as I just mentioned about the PTSD, PTSD, because it's not just soldiers in war PTSD. Obviously, we recognize there's all kinds of PTSD. Anyone that's experienced any kind of trauma, and they're suffering from that. My feeling is that this is actually, well, again, I'm not saying I'm right, but this is what comes to my mind when I see this blowing of knots. I see it as when that trauma or that sin that you commit takes place, that jinn or the demonic presence takes how can you say it? It makes the best of that opportunity, and now it is tied, with that memory or whatever it is that took place.
Okay, that's a very interesting.
It's tied, yeah. So, and because I also believe that all illnesses are in the gut, because this is another common phrase traditionally said that badi bimari, in at least in my language, comes from the stomach. It comes from the stomach, and we recognize that the gut is some kind of brain. So this is just my thinking. I'm not saying I'm right, but I think that these things are stored in our stomach, in our brain. These memories we are blocked out, but they have access to. They continuously remind us because it's still there in us. Yeah, this sickness is still there in us, inside our stomach, and these entities have attached themselves to that, which they never let us forget every time we have the possibility of doing good or moving on or doing better. This is how they keep us kind of chained. So this is the way I see these knots. Yeah, these blowing of knots.
It could also be that
butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way the brain is structured, the brain has sutures. It's also like in a way, the gut and the brain have similarities in their morphology.
Yeah.
So it could be that when these because these energy beings, when they emit a certain thought in your brain, in your mind, perhaps it's an emanation, it's a frequency, and when that is projected onto the brain, that could be like a blowing, of the knots.
Yeah.
But I was also wondering,
You're right about the amulets and that. Yeah, go on.
yeah. Is there something to that as well? Like
I believe so. I
the
believe so.
meaning doesn't have to be exclusive, right? So like,
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be.
because we
But again, I think my feeling is that only works upon the person who is not following the verses of Allah, who is not seeking the protection of Allah through the Quran.
Yes.
Allah leaves them exposed to all of this nonsense that is taking place. So if someone is doing this, as you said, doing it in the traditional way that we do understand, then yeah, it's very likely, I believe, that person is affected Because again, going back to what is sihr, yeah, as far as I can see, sihr ultimately is we're taught a lot of things. We're taught things. It's like, okay, Shaitan always makes himself out to be bigger than he actually is. The dog always barks. The
Loudest.
dog's bark is bigger than its actual bite. Yeah, it barks louder than its actual bite. So we're taught all of these kind of horrific imagery, horror movies. So we're scared that this can happen, that can happen. But ultimately, from what I can see, it goes back to Musa alayhi salam and the magic at that time. What is Allah teaching him? The
Yes.
the magic is not real. It's not real. Do not be afraid. Yeah. And what is fear? So that's how it works because we're afraid. Yeah. Because we're afraid, and that this is one of Shaitan's biggest tricks to make us scared of it. Oh, look, there's an amulet. Oh, that this person's done this. This can actually have an effect on you. So fear is what is it? False. What is it? False evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. So for
That's a
me,
great,
yeah.
yeah.
But for me, sihr
Yeah,
actually is
changing
yeah.
your perspective from truth to falsehood.
Right. So how does the
Beautiful.
magic,
Yeah.
how does the magic actually no longer we know this already. We're just putting
Mhm.
it together. We already know this, that the magician no longer is good, good with his tricks because we now know what the trick is, so it doesn't have an effect.
Right.
So, and
Take,
yeah, this is what it is with
take,
Jerry Marzinski when he's now pointing out, hey, by the way, this voice is not your voice. It sounds like your voice, but it's not your voice. Now the magician has lost his trick. That's why
that's a lie.
yeah, that's a lie. Exactly.
And
So,
I just wanted to say one thing before about what Sami said about these amulets,
mm,
and connecting that with the story of Musa is when they make these tavis or these amulets,
mm,
your perspective of where healing comes from is now changed from Allah to now this little amulet that you have. And it's the
Yes,
same thing.
yes,
It's
yes,
the same.
yes.
It's the same magic trick. You
mm,
change your perspective from what the truth is now to something false. So
mm,
that's the trick,
yeah,
Brilliant.
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
So, and I think the opposite of fear,
mm.
I think, is belief in Allah, because
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well,
Yep.
right,
Yeah.
iman, confidence, iman.
confidence, right? Opposite of confidence is
Trust.
fear. I think I'm just saying it out there, but
Mm,
when again, so what happens when a person goes into fear mode?
mm,
Their subconscious is disconnected from their conscious mind, and
mm,
they can only operate in the conscious mind. So,
mm,
and
Yeah.
then now you become like a robot now, right? You're just programmable. That's exactly what they did with COVID.
Fidelity.
They feared you, put all this fear, pumping fear.
mm,
Now people are taking 6 doses of something that there's no research on.
mm,
So it's like, how did you take six vaccines? How did you do that?
mm.
Well,
There's no isolated
somebody
isolation of the.
somebody pumped fear in you real good.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like,
you just described another obsession. The whole
yeah,
world has been taught a new obsession to take jabs.
Yeah.
contagion theory itself is, rooted in the like superstition and supernatural
Mm,
really seem to have a lot of intersections, like
mm,
they pass a lot of like superstition as knowledge. They actually like in our sciences, in our
Yeah.
religions, everything.
Yeah.
And
It's like
people,
atheists. It's like, how when atheists say, okay, how did the Big Bang start? It just happened. What do you mean it just happened? How do you know it happened? You're just making it up, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's the same thing.
If
Well,
you have faith or fidelity, when you have a connection that has high fidelity, it's a strong connection
mm,
with your internet or with your receiver or something.
mm,
It's the same thing. With the fear, that connection is lost or it's weak.
mm,
And because Shaitan's plan is weak, he needs to weaken you first.
mm,
You see, and that's why it's cowardly. He's
mm,
khonnes, he's like retreating, cowering,
mm.
because he doesn't have the strength that you are given in
Yeah,
this world from the
yeah.
get-go.
Mm,
I wanted to add something to the knots too,
mm,
Brother Waste, because
yeah.
it specifically says blowing in there, right?
Mm,
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
mm,
I remember back we were kind of discussing this kind of serendipitously, that basically, if you just look at the word
mm,
for spirit, we were debating spirit and soul.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
in spirit comes from the Latin word for breath, right?
Yep.
But then you have these creatures also called sprites, right?
Yep.
Which are ghosts. They're like spirits or sprites. They're like fantastical creatures, right?
Yep.
And the whole idea of inspiration, expiration, relating to breathing, right? Breath of life.
Mm-hmm.
And in Greek, you have pneuma. Pneuma with a P
Yep.
is referring to intellect.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that for lungs, like pneumatic or
Yes.
pneumatology.
Yep.
So when you look at the word psyche, which is a Greek word for soul or nefs, it comes from the word sucho, which means I blow.
Yes.
So this nefs is directly related to this blowing and the whispering, because it says that in Surah 12, the wife of Aziz says that the soul is a persistent enjoiner of evil. And also that this, another verse, the soul whispers to man.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean,
it's blowing.
you're right. When we spoke about this, about the nafs and the ruh, there clearly is, I think, in both of them, a breathing and
Right.
and a wind. It's like, what do I have here? One of the verses, yeah, like our second wind,
Right.
our ruh, yeah, ruh is like
Ruh.
the wind of Suleiman. So definitely the ruh has got this kind of wind connection to it.
Yeah.
And nafs, yeah, you're right. What is it? A breathing, an aspiration,
Yeah.
some kind of. I'm trying to remember.
Because, what's interesting is the word for mental illness, if I'm not mistaken, is in Arabic is marad nefs, which
Yes.
means like soul disease, just like psychology, right?
Yeah.
Study of
Yes.
the soul.
Disease
And
or psychology. Yes. Yes.
yeah, and narcissism,
Yep.
egoism is related to nafsiyya, like your selfishness, like you're about yourself.
Right.
So this is so obvious if you speak Arabic, because all of the things are there.
That's
They
right.
match your voice, your personality, your interests, your tastes, your weaknesses and strengths to convince you of an illusion. So you delude yourself.
And
Shaitan.
narcissism, now that you brought up narcissism could be the biggest sign that you are possessed, because
Yeah,
what is it the shaitan Iblis showed immediately when he did not follow
yeah,
suit with the rest of the angels? He showed narcissism.
Narcissism.
exactly. I am better than him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're talking about the belly and how the gut is related to these kind of deep-seated memories, right?
Yeah.
We even have words for anxiety, like expressions like butterflies in your stomach, right?
Yes. Big
And
butterflies in your
it's so interesting because the word for fetus in the Quran as well as in Arabic is the same root as jinn. It's the exact same root. The fetus
hidden
grows in the belly.
because it's hidden.
Right, but it just so happens to be in the belly as well.
Right.
And belly and womb seem to be usually interchangeable, depending if it's a female or a man. Just like breast between men and women is, interchangeable in Arabic. But it's like, you see, I was gonna tell you how. Let me just find it here. When we were talking about the Tariq video, there was a brief portion where it was like the star of the morning is also the star of the evening, because it appears at both ends of the night.
Okay.
After sunset and before sunrise. The one at the end of the night after sunset is called Vesper in Latin. That's a Roman god, Vesper.
Okay.
That literally means evening. Just like whisper. It's exactly phonetically the same.
Yes, Vesper, whisper, yes.
It's related to the evening.
Right.
So
Vesper.
that's when that surah is talking about.
Okay, wait. Let me try to understand you. So you got wisps. Remind me, what is wisp? What is a wisp?
A wisp is a supernatural entity that is fundamentally comes in many forms. It's observable only at night, pretty much.
Basically, what we see in this imagery,
what
we see in this imagery as energetic beings. Yeah, they're clearly depicting energetic
beings. made of some kind of a fiery electrical magnetic thing that transcends our physical world. And sometimes they're mischievous, and basically they come out at night. They're amplified at night.
Why is it called
Sprite.
Why is it called Will-o'-the-Wisp? Because the whisper has a will of its own, right? Is that why?
I guess, yeah. I mean, you can kind of fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah.
It's intuitive how these legends are there. So exactly when you see Christians pray in the church at night, they call that Vespers, because this waswes is related to nightfall. The dusk, what is it? The dusk is always darkest before the dawn, or something like that. There's a saying in English. And what's interesting is that in Latin, that also means west as well. So the word west is related to Vesper as well. So it's like in Arabic, west, we would say gharib, right? Like Maghrib is like, sunset, or, the emergence of night. So it's like, why do we have the same root where it's like strangeness, right? Like ghurab or ghuraba, strangers. Because that's when it starts, this strange thing we call the night. And all the things, all these spirits and energies and the moon and everything that's associated with it is strange to us in the West, where we have sunset. So it's just not a coincidence. And that's why Brother Imran stated, like Al-Falaq is in that verse for a reason, because that fundamentally is the end of that night. So everything becomes clear. Everything is
the end of that
back.
night of potential evil. Yeah. The end of the potential evil. Yeah.
Right. That's why Allah says He takes the nafs in your dreams, right? And they try to keep you up at night, these entities, or they'll play games with you in your dreams and stuff. Why? Because that's their influence on us, it seems. The night.
Yeah, Brother Joel says in the comments, knots in the stomach is a feeling described by people with major digestive issues.
Absolutely. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So,
Knots in your stomach.
So yeah, we can't separate the real parasites that we have from the parasites that are known as the jinn, amongst the jinn, or even mankind.
I pose this question that does jinn refer to a particular species, or does it refer to a consortium, of energy beings, different species, but all sharing a frequency of existence, or perhaps it could even be different species that are situated in different frequencies, but all of them are unseen to the human.
Right. Yeah, we're going to come to jinn but just for now, I mean, what I will say is that for me, it's clear. And again, I'm open to this as we study this. I'm sure I'll change my mind as we study this. But with jinn, it's clear that, and I think we'll agree that it's connected to something that is hidden because of Jannah, Jahannam, Majnoon, madness, which is not exactly, something that you see clearly. It's connected root, which is something that is not visible. Just like how you mentioned the fetus as well, right? What's the word? I think it's similar. It's got the same root, something that is hidden, right? Or something that is disguised. I don't know. We'll get into that. But before we do, let us have a look at if there was anything more on the whisper. Yeah, definitely will-o'-wisp. So they have these whispers do have a will of their own, and we have to protect ourselves from it.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted to say one thing. I just wanted to say one thing before we move on. Was that connecting this with like the art of war.
Yeah.
So when you want to attack your enemy, you attack him without him knowing. All of a sudden.
Well,
right. This is how our enemy attacks us.
Well, this is exactly the point that is made anytime someone's in conversation with Jerry. It's like, how can you defeat an enemy that you don't accept exists, or you don't even know? How can you defeat an enemy? Yeah, that you don't even know exists,
Right.
or you won't
Exactly.
embrace its
You,
existence.
it's
So yeah, so
the fog of
they take
war.
it art of war to the next level, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
The fog, of war that
Art of
basically
war.
in
Yeah,
Vietnam,
war is because
they
war
even
is
call it a
deception.
fog, right?
I think there's a hadith. At least you can agree that in that hadith, war is deception. There isn't.
Yeah, yeah,
There is no obvious war. All
yeah,
war is deception. Yeah.
yeah. And they strategize. The jinns and the allies of them. They strategize against mankind, against God.
Mm.
And something that's really kind of, controversial, but it's interesting. Like you could look at a lot of what the traditional modern understandings and practices in modern Islam
Mm.
as encouraging a lot of these, compulsions and obsessions, because Allah says there's no compulsion in the
Mm.
deen.
Yeah.
But all we find in the practice,
Mm.
allegedly ascribed to this book or
Mm.
several other books,
Yeah.
is that there's just a list of compulsions of this particular time, do this set,
Yeah.
make sure you go through this process.
Yes.
If you don't do this happens, so there'll be harm inflicted. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't do this, then you're filthy and stuff. So it's like
Yeah. I
It's
agree.
it
like
all adds up,
Absolutely. It's an OCD religion that we are taught.
fixed outcomes for compulsive actions.
Yes.
So they put the moon as the symbol, right? The moon we mentioned is related to lunacy and mania,
Yeah.
and it's like what's interesting is the whole narcissism is definitely linked to that, because if you have a narcissistic type of personality, that can actually lead you to become possessed as well. Like that, it's not just an effect; it's also a cause in a sense
Mm.
as well.
Yeah.
You're falling into the kind of blasphemy of thinking the world revolves around you,
Mm.
or even the sun is heliocentrism is
Self harm.
Mm.
The moon is also linked to like a lore of vampirism as well as werewolves. These are all linked to like the moon, like
yeah,
an yeah.
When you do all these rituals, these occultic rituals, they don't do them during the daytime. They do them at night, right? Bohemian Grove, that was at night.
Mm.
right.
So it's a cover of darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a cover.
If you wanted to know what that word was, so we're looking at blower of knots, we can get a better idea of the knots because we have, what do we have? Yeah, we have similar to, connected to that root of knots, we have contract, like
Binding,
a binding, some kind of binding, yeah, some kind of pledge.
because you're bound by contracts, right? They even call it's a binding.
Yeah, some kind of, yeah, so some kind of tying for sure. So that's the word uqad. And yeah, so and from the evil of in the knots, yeah, in the uqad. So an-naffathati. So yeah. Hmm.
These surahs are very difficult to
Mm.
translate into English, because we're not given much in the translation as it is.
Mm.
But even from that, there's so much you can derive,
Mm.
just conceptually, right? Like what's going on.
Yeah.
But obviously we want to go deeper into things, so accuracy will become key as time
Yeah.
goes
Right
on.
now, exactly.
Right
This is
now,
just our initial study. I know that we're gonna do more specific and find even more clarity, inshallah, as we go along. One,
Inshallah.
3, 4. But let me just see if they give anything for this word, nafatha, because it's only used once in the Quran. Blower of knots. So what is it? Yeah, to whisper evils below design. Occult endeavors to suggest the thing into the heart, inspire, whisper into the mind, puff, blow without spitting, eject from the mouth. Enchanting. Yeah, definitely what we understand to be as like magic
oh
in
yeah,
yeah.
chanting too. It's that takes speech, right? Chanting is singing or speech.
This,
So
honestly,
there are
this picture for me,
words.
it
Yeah,
perfectly, everything we're talking about, it's still, for me, this is the best image that I have, at least in my mind. This is exactly what's taking place. Yeah.
Even the one, I think there's a
I like how brother Igor, you said like, it's enchanting, like it's sound. You know how when they have when the news turns on, what do they say?
Yes.
Do do do
Exactly.
do Channel 4
Yeah,
news,
you're right. No, no, you're right.
right?
This is
So
what
they're
This is
trying
what
to,
Jerry's pointing
yeah.
out. This is why Jerry has done the study. All of the signs, it mirrors. It mirrors. When we're talking about everything that these jinn are doing, it mirrors. Once you've studied this, you will not want to look at any of that anymore because you're going to see it exactly for what it is.
even the word channel,
Uh,
like you mentioned,
wh-
Brother Imran. What
Channel,
is channeling?
channeling. Yep.
Channeling.
Mm.
Yeah. And
also,
like I don't want to get this confused with cymatic, because cymatic, the word of Allah, that is the superior. So the superior thing in this world is Allah's word, and Allah's word is sound,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
is what that is like. So sound is above written words,
Mm.
Mm-hmm. For
right?
sure.
So
what's it?
sound is in a realm that we can't see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this sound, so this whole, like, our existence, Allah said to the earth, "Do you come willingly or not?"
Mm.
Right. So He spoke it into existence, and then kun fayakun is be, is sound, and
Right.
then on and then the trumpet will be blown before the day of judgment, right?
Sound. Yeah.
Which is again sound. So this sound is just in this, and the whispering. I feel like it's like a leverage off of that,
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Also, they say something. They
So
say to cast spells, right? What do they do? What do you call when the news is being transmitted? What's the word?
Yes, yes.
broadcast.
Newscaster. Broadcaster.
Broadcast.
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 Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Spellings.
That's why I believe we're supposed to do this now, because we've already got a good foundation of everything we've learned over the last few years. That's why I think
Mhm.
we can get this now, inshallah. Um, okay, so yeah, cool. Yeah. So anyway, back to Jerry. Let's keep the focus on Jerry. What he points out. So they are all familiar with this surah, the last surah in the Quran, and they recognize that this has an effect upon the demons. A bit like how I think he says, when people are even suffering, to smack that elastic band around their wrist onto their skin to give them a moment to even be able to recite this, because some people are suffering so bad that some of them, I think they're recommended to keep an elastic band around their wrist. I'm actually considering getting something, to be honest with you, especially after what Brother Joel has been saying about tapping and all of these things, EFT tapping. I think it's all connected. Finding
Brendan O'Connell used to talk about tapping. I
Huh?
remember Brendan O'Connell.
Oh yes, that's right. You're right, isn't it? Yes, I remember. He was the first one I heard about tapping. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. Um, yeah, so there's definitely all of these tools. People have got bits of the truth, which will all be helpful against
Mhm.
these demonic attacks. So he says, yeah, using the elastic band around your wrist to smack your skin, and it gives you a brief moment to be the
Mm.
whisper, and then you can recite something like this. Recite Psalm 23 or Psalm 91 or this one, Surah An-Nas, and that obviously they don't like it. Um,
Yeah.
so, so
Of all his patterns, that
hmm?
one is one of the most interesting. The rubber band one. It's
Yeah,
kind of like unique
mm,
amongst them
right.
because it kind of shows that these entities are very reactionary. They're very
Mm, mm,
they're actually like rebels. Like it doesn't take much to really stir away their
yes,
focus.
yes.
Like, have you ever seen this movie? It's called uh, what's it called? A Quiet Place, and they made like a
Yes,
sequel to it, and they had these
yes. I did.
aliens. They just all they needed to do was just like throw something out there, and they would just dive for it like straight. Like they're just like shocked by any loud noise or something.
Basically,
Like
they're pretty dumb. They're pretty weak. Yeah, they're pretty.
yeah. So it's like you can see why they hate boredom, and
Mm,
they try to really be so volatile and self-destructive and like like they don't think.
mm,
Basically they're just reactionary. They're just like any group in identity politics or something. Like it's just
yeah.
it exists because there's a problem, and there's they just exist because of the problem. There's no solution offered or anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of why Satan exists in a sense. Like there's a problem created from him.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like all it takes is really to snap a rubber band.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
how obviously like
It's,
humans are so much better than that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Well, it just shows how easy it is for, yeah, as you said, that they can be that easily shaken up, and
Yeah.
we can free ourselves. So it does seem like the more we study through, from Jerry's work, that we realize that we do have actually more power and they have less power,
Right.
but they're getting away with things because
Yeah.
we are ignorant, simply ignorant. Yeah, that's what it
They're
is.
constantly at war. They're like,
Yeah.
you can say some words to somebody that's like not offensive at all,
Mm.
and they will just like snap and start yelling out of nowhere. And it's like, where does this come from? I didn't say anything remotely
Yes.
crazy. It's like
Well,
that's
you're
how they are.
describing
That's
that the
their
whole, you're
mentality.
basically pointing out that the whole world right now is paranoid, schizophrenic, triggered
In a
people.
sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
Do you guys
It's in
remember
your
that
personal life.
movie?
yeah.
Mm.
Do you guys remember that movie when Mars attacks
Yes, yes, yes.
and like how they all like died
Yeah.
by a frequency or a song actually?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
Mm.
I do remember.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
didn't you say, Brother Weiss,
Mm,
that when you had a routine
mm,
with daily recitation,
mm.
you felt way more grounded and stable, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Me as well. Me as well. Yep.
yeah. The routine recitation, definitely. But you see, the thing is, I think the reason why we give up, or anyone does give up, and I can say from my experience, is because, yeah, first of all, it's time consuming, and I don't mean that in a
Yeah.
negative way. Um, but obviously, we're tricked. First of all, it feels time consuming, and not just that. I think we can feel pretty drained as well, depending on our spiritual condition.
Yeah.
My experience, whenever I would do a serious prayer. I remember when I used to wake up in the middle of the night for prayers. After my prayers, I felt tired and I felt like I had to sleep again, or take a nap, because maybe I had fought off the energy or maybe I'd done something good. So, depending on our condition, I think we can get the wrong conclusion that maybe we might feel that something is not good for us when actually it's good for us, but we have to persist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, because as Jerry says, the person is all of a sudden drained of energy because yeah, they've been fighting off that negative energy. Um, so yeah.
Right.
So what I was just gonna say, so what does Allah say to do when these thoughts actually happen?
Mm.
That's the $1 million question in
Seek
all of this,
refuge. Yeah.
Yeah. What does Allah tell us?
right?
Yeah, to seek refuge. Yeah,
Exactly.
I seek refuge.
And I think that's the key.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key because you have to. I mean, when I heard Dr. Zaid Ghazawi say this,
Mm,
that's all you have to say. Then why? What is it specifically saying?
mm,
So just like how we we're talking about magicians, like imagine there was a magician now, and
mm,
he performs a trick with a sleight of hand, and you guys don't see it, but I do, and I say, "Hey,
mm,
he did sleight of hand," and
mm.
then what happens to the magician? Magician's like, "Oh well, I guess the trick's up, right?" So
Yes.
similarly, when we say "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim,"
Mm.
I seek refuge with Allah from Satan,
Yep.
from Satan. He is the one, right?
Yep.
You're calling out the magician out,
Yes. Yes.
right? And then now the trick is
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. But if you believe that he doesn't exist and you're just reciting that, then
There you go.
yeah, yeah.
But I think this A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, that is like the number one thing we're supposed to go to first before anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Even when you forget,
Yeah.
or
Mm,
that actual verse is repeated, I think, verbatim in
mm,
2 verses. And if an evil suggestion comes to you from shaitan, then
mm,
seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He is hearing and knowing. It's
mm,
actually verbatim, I think.
mm,
Chapter 7, verse 200, and chapter, I think, Fussilat. I'm not sure what number that is, but it's ayah 36. It's identical. So why did He repeat the same one twice? Two different chapters, unless that was something to really ponder on,
mm.
that it's repeated.
And when Satan, yeah, and when a temptation from Satan says you take refuge, um, وَإِمَّا
And then
يَنزَغَنَّ-
it says
yeah,
he is hearing. He is hearing.
Mm.
and,
Yeah.
and knowing he hears it.
Yep. He is.
So
Yeah.
he hears the sound that comes from that, right?
It's
Yeah.
also
Or not the
in
sound, but I mean the
41,
the impulses you get.
41:36.
41:36. فاستعذ بالله. Yeah. فاستعذ بالله. Seek refuge with Allah. Yeah, we're going to come to this later as well. I've got this ينزغنك. So that is, what is that? That is suggester, I think. Yes, if I remember correctly. So when a suggestion from Satan. So that one is suggestion. So we're gonna look at these, the whisper and the suggestions of Satan. Again, because yeah, those specific words are used, and so therefore we'll I'm sure we'll glean things from that. What did you say? The other reference was?
41:36.
I think this was the one I was thinking of, where it
Yeah, there it is again. Yeah, you're right. When a suggestion from Shaitan provokes you, yeah, seek refuge with Allah, in Allah,
It,
or
it
with
has to
Allah.
be
Yeah,
suggestion because
Yep.
it's like he's gonna Shaitan is basically gonna say like, oh, I didn't force anything. Like I believe in the Lord of the Worlds.
Mm,
They did it of their own
Mhm.
will.
mm,
So it's like it's trying to fill in the blanks for you to make you think
Yep.
that you have no free will.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's actually you doing all of the things because he's not actually forcing you to do anything. He's
Yep.
just convincing you that, oh no, these are your thoughts. You did this.
Yep.
You got yourself in trouble.
Yep.
And then
Well,
at
now,
the same time saying, oh, listen, it's just the devil. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The devil made me do it. So
yeah.
Yeah, and we're not questioned for our thoughts. We're questioned for our actions, right?
Right.
So it's only until you act upon it.
That's right.
that-
I'm reminded. I won't go into that one. Yeah. Okay. So now that you've quoted two of the four verses I have from Suggester, so you've said 7200, which is the suggestion from Satan, the suggester. So let's just actually call him what he is. This is a name for Shaitan. He is the suggester. So he's not just the whisperer, as we saw in Surah Nas, yeah, the Al-Waswas al-Khannas. He's not just the retreating whisperer, he's the suggester. And you've just quoted two verses, 7200 and 4136. Suggestion from Shaitan, the suggester. Seek refuge in Allah. Now there's two more verses, 12100 and 1753, which indicate to the suggester of discord. Yeah, the suggester sowing discord. So 12100 and 1753. 12100 and 17.
So it goes to show who that discord that's happening in Palestine right now. Who's suggesting it? Who's that initiated it?
Yeah,
You know, the enemy isn't the Jews. The enemy isn't the Arabs. It's Shaitan. He's the one that's behind it all.
There we go. Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Shaitan causes discord. Where is it? Yeah. Nazgha. Nazgul comes to mind.
You notice that, Brother Awais, a lot of the words in the Quran, in the Arabic language as well, that have to do with like negativity, tend to be related to this letter ghain.
Okay.
Ghurur,
Interesting.
nazgh,
Well, I can see nar. Yeah. I can see nar.
ghan,
Yeah,
assumption, I think. Or that's dhan, sorry. But dhan, dha, gha, even
right.
kha, like kharrab, or khanzir, like for swine,
Right.
or khamr for wine. These kind of harsh, more harsh letters in the Arabic
Yeah.
tend to be used a lot in a kind of negative sense. For whatever reason, I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
Gharur.
Gharur, yes. The deceiver, the deluder.
Yeah.
1753. Okay, so that's that one. Let me see. 17.
In Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, those faceless horsed warriors are called Nazgul.
Yes, you remember.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The dark ones, yeah.
The ghouls are like used. It's actually from Arabic because they're supposed to be something that feeds on human flesh. right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Even in Harry Potter, you have this same imagery of a dementor. When someone's demented, right? They're like, something's wrong with their mental processes. But a dementor is like literally, from the imagery, is feeding off the person's soul. Like it's like feeding off, like sucking them dry. That's the imagery of it. It's like, what
So
the heck is
you're
going on?
saying,
Where did they get these ideas from?
Well,
so
again, I mean,
Dementor, you
just
can associate. Sorry, you can associate Dementor with demon, I guess, right?
Yeah, of course. Demon is related even to moon as well. Like daemon is from Greek.
Demigod.
Right.
They actually called daemon like a companion spirit, right? Daemon in Greek. And then in Latin, it's funny enough, it's called genius, which is jinn.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do we?
Well,
Our entire
we won't
history
mention
is,
his name, but that's what we're told, that genius, right? Genius is the genius.
yeah,
Is
but the origin of that word genius is
in
actually spirit.
inspired from the jinn. That's
Jinn.
why they call them genius.
Like in Roman mythology, genius refers to companion spirits of whatever. Like they made shrines and temples to them, just like they do in Asia right now. Where they say, "Oh yeah, this is the genius of the house. This is the genius of the harvest." You know, so this is a very commonplace understanding before the last few centuries. Even in the last century, people had this understanding that yes, our world is shared with some other beings, right?
Exactly. This was
They
common
covet our world, right?
knowledge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back on track. So Surah Nas, we've now looked at Surah Nas, Psalm 23, Psalm 91, and yeah, indulge me a little bit on when I did look at Iblis. So let me bring that up.